I have a system that helps me survive in a zombie apocalypse. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, Turn Off Transformation. After dinner, Qiu Zillion chased the little spider around the whole building. Wang Qiushu lay on the bed reading a book he found in the bookstore. Fortunately, there was a paper book, otherwise there would be no entertainment. Qiu Zillion was still working hard to practice. He looked at the system panel. After all, he hadn't looked at it for a long time. Host, Li Wending level 4 physical condition, no injury experience. 34,395 number of zombies to be killed to be promoted to the next level. 86,397 number of assistants. 2 time to support assistant transformation. 42 minutes, increases with the increase of physical fitness, weapon, death, and life sword armor. Host specific subtitle, 10,000 corpses / not worn, assistant Wang Qiushu level 4 physical condition, no injury special skills, head hardening, free extension and retraction of arms, treatment, instant burst, spiderization, hair perception, kicking hair, extreme speed, molting and rebirth, consciousness coming transformation time. 16 minutes, increases with the increase of physical fitness, weapon, hammer of the earth, soul breaking sword armor, skirt of darkness, shoes of darkness assistant Qiu Zillion level 3 physical condition, weaken no injury special skills, instant burst, partial hardening, invisibility, crabization, giant claws, molting and rebirth, sand trap, spitting bubbles transformation time. 17 minutes, increases with the increase of physical fitness, weapon, dragon slayer armor, martial arts clothes, martial arts shoes. After killing the cockroaches, although a lot of experience was spent, there were still more than 30,000 experience points, which was not far from buying a car. And each level 4 zombie was worth 10,000, which means that if they killed 7 more level 4 zombies, they would have their own car, and then they could consider going home. And to upgrade from level 4 to level 5, it really required killing 100,000 zombies, which he had gotten used to, and for him now, this was not a very difficult thing. Since he had become wealthy recently, he took daily pills every day, and Wang Qiushu and the other person could also take them together. Their physical strength had greatly increased, and the transformation time had also increased a lot, and breaking through the 1 hour mark was just around the corner. Next was the title, which also became 10,000 corpses / The role of the title was similar to before, but the zombies that could be attracted had increased from level 3 to level 4. In other words, as long as he wore the title, there would be level 4 zombies coming to kill him. Although Qiu Zillion needs to kill a level 4 zombie to upgrade, he still thinks he should be cautious considering the situation when he was chased by a level 3 zombie before. After all, level 4 zombies begin to pay attention to individual abilities, and they are not easy to deal with. Even the cockroaches and white-fronted spiders were just tricky, because he used specially upgraded insecticides. If he was dealing with zombies transformed from humans, there would be no such weaknesses, and it would be difficult to deal with them. Therefore, the specific operation is still under discussion. The most important thing at the moment is naturally to deal with Xiaopaogen and his gang. Rain clouds have begun to appear in the sky recently, and it is estimated that it will rain soon. If Xiaopaogen and his gang have not appeared by the time it rains, then he will upgrade the scanner, scan all the way, and find Xiaopaogen and his gang. After all, the two sides have become enemies, so it is better to resolve it as soon as possible, so as not to be stabbed in the back by them. As he was thinking, he remembered something very important, so he asked, "System, didn't you say that at level 4, you can decide whether the assistant will transform?" This is related to his happiness, and it is also the motivation for him to upgrade desperately before. If the system dares to say no now, he will definitely pull the system out and beat it up. system. The host only needs to recite it in his mind, but this setting is only effective for exchanging saliva to transform. If you use the transformation needle, you will definitely transform. His face was happy. This is what he wanted. I know. Wang Qiushu, who was reading a book, looked up at him. What happened? You are laughing so happily. He chuckled. You will know in the evening. Wang Qiushu said oh, and continued to read. At night, when they were preparing to go to bed, Wang Qiushu found that the little spider had run in at some point, and it seemed that he was about to climb onto her bed. She looked at the little spider, and the little spider looked at her, and the two looked at each other. After a while, the door opened, and the little spider was kicked out. Don't disturb my sleep. The little spider put its two front legs on the door, and kept scratching it, making a series of piercing sounds. After a while, the door of the next room opened, and Qiushu Zillion came out. Little spider, do you want to sleep with me? The little spider looked at the closed door, then at Qiushu Zillion, and finally walked over. Qiushu Zillion picked up the little spider and said, your fur is so soft and comfortable. By the way, sister said that you have to be good, and don't run around, otherwise I can't protect you. The hair on the little spider was very soft, before it was launched. It looked at Qiushu Zillion, who was holding the Dragon Slayer spear, and nodded. Qiushu Zillion happily carried the little spider to bed. Qiushu Zillion looked at her happy sister, and warned the little spider with her eyes again. Although she knew that the protective gear would always work, she was still a little worried. But it was rare to see her sister so happy, so she agreed. Since grandpa passed away, her sister has rarely been so happy. In the end times, there is no entertainment, no pets such as cats and dogs, and no company of peers. It was a rare opportunity for her to meet Spider-Man, so she followed her sister. On the other side, after Wang Qiushu kicked Spider-Man out, he climbed directly onto Wang Qiushu's bed. Wang Qiushu turned around and saw him lying on the bed. Why did you come here? He patted the empty space beside him. Lie down first, I'll tell you slowly. Wang Qiushu glanced at him and lay down. You're not going to do anything bad again. Are you afraid of being infected by the zombie virus later? He chuckled and told her that he had turned off Wang Qiushu's transformation. Wang Qiushu suddenly realized, no wonder you were laughing so happily in the afternoon. It turned out to be because of this. He nodded and hugged Wang Qiushu. Yes, I have been waiting for this day for a long time. Should we? But Wang Qiushu pushed him away and said with a blushing face, if it's just a kiss, then there's no problem. If you want to go further, no. He was stunned. Why? Wang Qiushu continued, although we don't have any survival pressure now, it is not absolutely safe after all. We have to fight zombies every day, so I want to wait until I settle down in the future. Also, although the transformation needle has no side effects, I'm still worried that it will affect the children. Finally, Zillion and the others are right next to us, and I'm afraid I will disturb them. He stared at Wang Qiushu for a while, and finally said, well, it's up to you. Wang Qiushu kissed him. You're so nice. Finally, he and Wang Qiushu fell asleep in each other's arms. Chapter 277 Acquisition of Ability. The next morning, they got up very early. They had a lot to do today. They had to test Wang Qiushu's consciousness and whether he needed to turn into a crab and a spider to obtain their abilities. In addition, the little spider was already starving, so they had to find something to eat for it. In fact, if it were a wild zombie, it wouldn't be so hungry. After all, it doesn't exercise much, and they can find food by themselves. The little spider was locked in the building, had nothing to eat, and was tormented by Qiushu Zillion for a day, so its energy was almost exhausted, so naturally it didn't have much strength. So, Qiushu Zillion came over early in the morning with Spider-Man in her arms. Let's go quickly, Spider-Man is starving. Wang Qiushu asked in surprise, did your sister agree to let you go out? Qiushu Zillion just came over. Well, it's not a good idea to always stay at home. Besides, she has protective gear on her body. I plan to take her out for a walk. I believe that, unless she encounters a very powerful zombie, she should not be hurt under normal circumstances. Qiushu Zillion nodded quickly. Also, Spider-Man will protect me. Wang Qiushu smiled. Spider-Man is just an ordinary zombie, but he can't protect you. Qiu Zillion shook her head. No, Spider-Man is very powerful. Spider-Man also shook his head. At this time, he came over. Okay, let's go. Then, they each rode down. Because Qiu Zillion was too small, Qiu Zillion had to hold Qiu Zillion, but not Spider-Man, so Wang Qiushu had to come. Wang Qiushu sat in the back seat and smiled. No wonder Zillion kept holding her, and refused to let go. The fur is quite soft, and it's very comfortable to hold. Spider-Man took the opportunity to rub against her arms. He pedaled his bicycle while warning, behave yourself and don't rub against me, or I'll throw you out there to fend for yourself. Wang Qiushu laughed. Why, are you jealous of the little spider? And it's a female spider. He snorted. I can't be jealous of something I can't easily get. If it were a male, I would have castrated it. The little spider rubbed against him even harder. No, it seemed to want to stay away from him. Wang Qiushu blushed and spat. I don't know where your hand was yesterday. He knew that it would be inappropriate for children to continue chatting, so he didn't respond. After all, the two sisters Qiu Zillion were following behind. Since most of the zombies nearby were dead, only one or two wandering zombies could be seen on the road occasionally. They were too lazy to stop and deal with them, so they continued to move forward. The zombies finally saw a living person, so they naturally would not let him go, but chased after him. However, they soon discovered that no matter how hard they chased, they could not catch up with the two bicycles. Qiu Zillion kept waving at the zombies behind. Come on, come and chase us. Qiu Zillion saw that there were only some ordinary zombies following behind, so she followed her sister. After a lot of effort, they finally came to a place with a little more zombies. This place is a residential area, and there are many zombies on the streets and in the houses. After hearing their movements, many zombies rushed out of the houses. He parked the car and smiled. The people here are really simple and honest. As soon as they see guests coming, they rush out to greet them. In this case, we must repay them well. Qiu Zillion couldn't wait to get out of the car, and then took the little spider from Wang Qiushu's arms. The little spider had never seen such a scene before. It was surrounded by a large group of zombies, and trembled with fear. Although these zombies were only a little higher than its level, there were many of them. In its opinion, this group of zombies was much more terrifying than a few humans. Wang Qiushu swung the hammer of the earth easily, thinking about which one to kill first, and looked at him at the same time. What should we do now? He answered directly. Kill first. Kill those with high levels first, and then leave an ordinary zombie for you to test consciousness later. Wang Qiushu nodded and rushed out directly. Qiu Zillion looked at her sister. Stay here. Don't run around. Shout if there is anything. I will come. Qiu Zillion nodded, but there was no fear on her face. After all, compared with the group of cockroaches before, this scene is simply a small witch compared to a big witch. He glanced at the zombies, and then silently said, get the speed ability to assist Wang Qiushu. The next second, he felt that his forehead was a little different, so he looked at Qiu Zillion. Is my forehead white? Qiu Zillion nodded, and then said, same as Sister Qiushu yesterday. He breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that spider transformation is just a prerequisite. When he obtains the corresponding ability, he will naturally become a spider. However, spider transformation is not a special ability. It can even be said that it doesn't matter whether it exists or not. As for crab transformation, I wonder if he will also become a crab when he obtains the abilities of crab transformation. In that case, he can have the hard body and a pair of large claws of a crab. At least his actual combat ability will be greatly improved, and he will be more resistant to attacks. However, crab transformation is still too clumsy. He can only be regarded as a meat tank, which is not as good as it is now. Then, he suddenly disappeared from the spot, and appeared in the group of zombies the next second, chopping off the head of a zombie with his deadly knife. And when other zombies attacked him, he disappeared again, and returned to his original place. Wang Qiushu looked back at him. Did you succeed? He nodded and smiled. I can directly obtain your ability, and it will automatically add the premise of spider transformation. It feels so good to come and go freely. Wan Qiushu thought about it and suddenly smiled. Once you acquire this ability, it will last for a whole day, which means that you will remain like this all day. If you obtain Zilan's crab transformation ability, wouldn't you be like the crab man all day long? Zilan looked back at him curiously when she heard this. His smile froze. Theoretically, that's right. But now that you've reminded me, I've decided not to use the crab type abilities anymore. Wan Qiushu was puzzled. Why? Those abilities are all pretty powerful. He replied, it's too ugly, I don't want to become a clumsy crab. Besides, if that's the case, I'll have to stay outside all day and can't even go into the house. Wan Qiushu smiled and said, we can prepare a big fish tank for you, and then you can just soak in it. With your strength, you don't have to worry about being attacked. As for food, we'll just deliver it to you. The two sisters Qiushu nodded together. He chopped down a zombie that rushed over with a knife. You guys are so nice to me. Chapter 278 Facing Death. Wan Qiushu and Qiushu killed for a while and finally killed almost all the zombies. However, they both killed zombies above level 1 and kept the ordinary zombies. The highest level here is level 2 zombies. It seems that level 3 zombies are not yet so common. However, it is estimated that after a while, level 3 zombies will be born among those level 2 zombies. He only went out to fight for a while occasionally. Although he gained the ability of extreme speed, he found that his body was uncomfortable after using it too much. After all, his body is still human flesh, which cannot be compared with the body of zombies. He was able to hold on for a while, thanks to his long-term consumption of powerful pills to improve his physical fitness. In addition, although there seems to be no problem here, he is still worried that some strange zombies will run out and take Qiushu away. After all, Qiushu is the weakest here. She has a set of protective gear, but her actual combat ability is not very good. As for the little spider, forget it. It is just an ordinary zombie. Those zombies are not very interested in it. At this time, after a round of slaughter, only a dozen ordinary zombies were left, but they were still rushing over here, and it was most appropriate to describe them as not knowing whether to live or die. Unfortunately, their movements were not fast, so they could not rush over for a long time. Qiushu swept the dragon killing spear and directly swept away the dozen ordinary zombies. It's almost done now. Wan Qiushu nodded, then looked at one of the ordinary zombies and began to use consciousness to descend. The next second, the zombie trembled all over and quickly stood up again. She first looked at her hands, then raised her head and looked over here. Success. Then, the zombie slowly walked over here. He didn't expect it to be so easy. How do you feel now? The zombie stopped and responded, it feels like I have an extra body, but everything I see in both bodies will be directly fed back to my brain. It's like they appear at the same time, but they are separate and won't cause confusion. He nodded, that's good. Otherwise, your brain probably won't be able to handle it after a while, and you may even have to choose to control only one of the bodies. The zombie moved its body again, and then attacked the ordinary zombie next to it. The ordinary zombie next to it was confused and didn't understand why he was attacked, but he quickly fought back. However, the zombie was controlled by Wan Qiushu after all, and he had rich practical experience, so he twisted the opponent's neck directly and then tore off the opponent's head abruptly. The scene was bloody. Fortunately, black liquid flowed out instead of bright red blood, otherwise it would not pass the review. Then, the zombie stood up, still holding the head of an ordinary zombie in his hand, shook his head in disappointment. No, this body is too weak. Without weapons, dealing with one is already the limit. However, even with weapons, you can only fight with people of the same level. If you meet a high level, you will still be defeated. This body can't withstand the attack of a level 1 zombie. He smiled. Of course, you only descended with your consciousness, not your body. Ordinary people can deal with ordinary zombies, let alone level 1 zombies. By the way, did you encounter any resistance at the beginning? The zombie thought about it. There was a little bit at the beginning, but it disappeared soon. Anyway, when I felt it was okay, this body was already under my control. He nodded. Then it seems that the trembling of her body just now was her consciousness instinctively fighting against you, but the level difference was too big, so it was quickly occupied by your consciousness. By the way, can you speak as soon as you descend? Can her body speak? Wang Qiuyushu frowned and looked at him. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to speak, and then I said it. He thought for a while. Forget it. This is not a very important issue. However, all the wild zombies we encounter now cannot speak, and I don't know if they have forgotten how to speak. The zombies transformed by the transformation needle can speak, which can be used as a basis for identification. Wang Qiuyushu nodded and looked at him. Then should I take back my consciousness now? He shook his head and took out the death sword. The zombie took a step back. What do you want to do? He replied, didn't you say before that when this body dies, the consciousness will automatically be retracted? I just want to see how much impact death has on your original body. If it's too big, don't use this trick in the future. The zombie took another step back. Can't you try it yourself later? He thought about it and put the knife away. That's right. If you really feel that you are on the verge of death, it must be very scary. I'd better try it later. Wang Qiuyushu and the zombie were stunned at the same time, and then the zombie suddenly walked over, closed his eyes, and exposed his neck. You come. He smiled. Aren't you afraid? If I cut you with a knife, half of your consciousness may face death directly, and it's real death, not just talk. Wang Qiuyushu smiled frankly. I'm afraid, but I will have to face it in the future. Besides, let me do such a terrible thing. There is no need for you to bear it. He nodded and took out the death and life knife again. Are you ready? The zombie nodded and said, but I suddenly have a question for you. You knew my consciousness was in there. Could you still do it? He smiled and said, even if your consciousness is in there, it is not the complete you after all, so there is nothing I can't do. After saying that, he slashed with the deathless knife, and the zombie's head and body were separated, and he fell to the ground. Wang Qiuyushu at the side also trembled and almost fell, but he was supported by him. Are you okay? Wang Qiuyushu frowned and replied after a while, it's okay, it's just that my consciousness just returned to the body, and it took a while to buffer. He breathed a sigh of relief. I'm glad you're okay. Wang Qiuyushu continued, the moment I was killed just now, my consciousness automatically came out of that body, just like the internet was suddenly disconnected. Now that I think about it, it's not so scary, maybe because I know I won't die. He replied, if I can take back my consciousness the moment I was killed, it would be even better, and I don't have to face the death later. Wang Qiuyushu nodded in agreement, but I have a question. You just said that it was not the complete me, so you could do it. So, do you like my consciousness or my body now? Or is it just because the zombie is not good looking, so you can do it? He was stunned for a moment, and quickly said, consciousness and body are inseparable. Of course, I like you as a person, a unique person. Even if your consciousness descended on a very good looking zombie, I would not like it. Wang Qiuyushu snorted. You pass. Chapter 279 Unleashing the Potential of Little Spider. On the other side, while the two of them were doing the experiment, the two sisters Qiuyushu were not idle either. Although one zombie was controlled by Wang Qiuyushu and one was killed by Wang Qiuyushu, there were still many zombies rushing towards them. After sweeping the zombies back again, Qiuyushu looked at the little spider. Let it try. Isn't it starving? The little spider didn't know what he was thinking, and hurriedly rubbed against Qiuyushu's arms, clinging to it with its 8 legs even tighter. Qiuyushu shook her head. There are so many zombies, the little spider can't beat them. Besides, it doesn't seem to want to go. The little spider nodded repeatedly, agreeing with Qiuyushu's words. Qiuyushu glanced at her sister and shouted directly. Original shock. Qiuyushu heard her sister's voice, subconsciously loosened her hand, and the little spider in her arms fell down, and then her 2 feet shook on the spot. The little spider was frightened, and when it fell halfway, it grabbed Zillion's clothes, and then quickly climbed up again. Sure enough, it had to rely on itself. Qiuyushu nodded with satisfaction, and then shouted, take a half step forward with your left foot. Qiuyushu continued to listen to her words, completely ignoring the little spider hanging on her body. The little spider didn't understand why, and just hung on Zillion's body and dangled. Fortunately, it was relatively light, and climbing was a natural instinct for a spider, so it was not thrown off. Zillion continued to shout, "Use your feet as the axis, turn your body 90 degrees to the right, and bend your knees, to form a horse stance." Zillion still did what her sister said. The little spider was hanging on Zillion's shoulder at this time, and only in this way could it stay. However, it didn't know why it always felt something was wrong. At this time, Zillion shouted, "Elbow." Zillion subconsciously bent her left elbow, and with a bang, the tip of her elbow hit the little spider, and pushed it out. The little spider suddenly found that its legs were loose, and it seemed that it could not hold onto the clothes, and then it saw itself getting farther and farther away from Zillion. It blinked its eyes first, and then when it found itself flying in the air, it struggled frantically. When it saw a group of ordinary zombies behind it, and those ordinary zombies were rushing towards it, it struggled even harder. Zillion then walked to her sister and said, "This elbow is not bad, which means you have learned it, but you need to practice more in the future." Zillion was completely confused at this time. Who am I? Where am I? And what did I do just now? After hearing her sister's words, and seeing the little spider gradually moving away in the air, she suddenly remembered that she had just used an elbow to push the little spider away. Seeing that the little spider was about to fall into the group of zombies, Zillion hurriedly looked at her sister. "Sister, please save the little spider quickly, it will be eaten." Zillion shook her head. "It's a zombie, not a cat or a dog. It doesn't need our protection. Moreover, its mother is a level 4 zombie, and has experienced countless fights. Therefore, it should also get food, and grow through fighting." Zillion looked at the little spider, then at her sister, and suddenly rushed forward. "Since your sister doesn't want to, I will go to save it myself." Zillion picked up her sister. "Don't go. Can you beat those zombies? Watch here carefully." Zillion slapped her sister with her little hand. "Let me go. The little spider is going to die. It's all your fault." Zillion sighed, still didn't let go, just said, "It won't die. I will watch it carefully. If there is any danger I will definitely take action." Zillion asked with tears in her eyes, "Really?" Zillion nodded, "Really? And even if it is injured, it can still shed its shell and be reborn, so it won't die so easily." Zillion nodded, not quite understanding, but at least she stopped crying. While the two sisters were chatting, the little spider flew in the air, with nowhere to put his strength, getting closer and closer to the zombies behind him. The zombies suddenly saw a zombie of the same level as themselves flying over, and smaller than themselves, so they naturally didn't care about so much, and stretched out their hands to tear it apart first. However, when the zombie in front touched the little spider, it seemed to suddenly stimulate its potential, and its 8 legs bounced on the opponent's hand, dodging the next series of attacks. Then, its figure disappeared from its original place with a swish, and only a black shadow could be seen going up along the arm. When it came to the zombie's head, the little spider suddenly climbed onto the zombie's back, and grabbed the zombie's head with its 8 legs. The zombie shook its head, but failed to shake off the little spider, and then tried to pull the little spider off with its hands. At this time, the little spider suddenly showed its 2 fangs, and stabbed the zombie's neck fiercely. The moment it stabbed in, the zombie stopped moving. After a while, the zombie turned into a pile, and lay on the ground. A closer look revealed that only a layer of skin was left. Then, the little spider pulled out its fangs from the skin, and cleaned it with its 2 front legs, as if it had just enjoyed a delicious meal. Its belly also became visibly bigger. The remaining zombies, at the moment, when the little spider showed its fangs, seemed to have encountered something terrible. They did not dare to attack again, but ran back instead. Zillion applauded directly at this time. "Little spider is so powerful." He and Wang Qiushu happened to come over. The few zombies that escaped were ordinary zombies, and they were too lazy to chase them. When the little spider saw Wang Qiushu, he walked over slowly. There was no choice but to eat the whole zombie directly. Its butt turned into a big ball and dragged on the ground. It could only walk like this. He laughed and said, "I don't know if there will be stones or glass shards on the ground, which will scratch its big belly." It will probably explode like a balloon. QIU Zillion was shocked and ran to the little spider and wanted to pick it up. I don't know if the little spider remembered what happened just now, but it actually avoided QIU Zillion and ran to Wang Qiushu instead. Wang Qiushu said speechlessly, "It really treats me as its mother." He nodded. "Well, this is called recognizing a thief as a father. No, it should be recognizing a thief as a mother. When it grows up, it may seek revenge on you." Wang Qiushu glared at him. "You killed its mother with pesticides, so you should be the one to seek revenge." Qiushu Zillion was stunned for several seconds, and then she started crying. Wang Qiushu grabbed the little spider that rushed over and stuffed it into Qiushu Zillion's arms. The little spider wanted to struggle, but then it tasted Wang Qiushu's iron fist of justice and immediately became much more honest. After Qiushu Zillion hugged the little spider again, she finally stopped crying. Chapter 280 Postponement of the hunting plan. Next, they continued to kill zombies. And Wang Qiushu finally confirmed in the continuous experiments that the success rate of consciousness descending is related to the level. At her current level, she only has a 50% success rate to descend on a level 3 zombie. Moreover, as long as the zombies have been descended by her consciousness, their consciousness will be erased. Even after she takes back her consciousness, the zombies can still act normally, but obviously they have lost their previous consciousness. This conclusion was drawn after they tested several level 3 zombies. After all, the level 3 zombies, before they were descended, still had a certain IQ and knew whether to fight or flee. After being descended by consciousness, they became the same as the most primitive ordinary zombies, only knowing how to kill and not considering other things. In summary, no matter whether they see people or zombies, whether their levels are lower or higher than their own, they will just do it, and they can't see the original appearance at all. However, whether those zombies will regain consciousness in the future, that's unknown. After all, they are not scientists, and there is no need to study this. Wang Qiushu retracted his consciousness. Level 3 zombies only have a half success rate, and level 4 zombies will definitely have a lower success rate. I even have a vague feeling that level 4 zombies cannot be descended by my consciousness. At most they will be entangled by me for a while. He smiled. Even if it's just entangled, they will be unable to move for a moment. And in that moment, the three of us can do a lot of things. Qiushu Zillion nodded. "Yeah, and when I reach level 4, we will have 3 level 4s, so it will be faster to kill." Wang Qiushu glanced at him. "He doesn't count. He counts as half at most, and he barely won't drag us down." The corner of his mouth twitched, but he was powerless to refute. After all, his physical fitness is a bit poor. There is no way, and the system doesn't have something that can change the body. Qiushu Zillion looked at him. "By the way, when are we going to hunt level 4 zombies? Do we need to set traps in advance like last time?" Now she is the only one who has not reached level 4, so naturally she wants to reach it as soon as possible. He shook his head and said, "Let's wait until we encounter a level 4 zombie." Wang Qiushu said in surprise, "Don't you have a new title that can attract level 4 zombies? Why not use that?" Qiushu Zillion also looked at him with confusion. He responded, "We don't know how wide the coverage of this title is, and you all know how strong level 4 zombies are. Now you, Qiushu, are only level 4, and you can't withstand the siege of a group of level 4 zombies. If we run into powerful ones by then, we can't just ride a bicycle to get rid of them." Wang Qiushu thought about it and suggested, "Then why don't we go to the beach last time? Even if the coverage of the title is relatively large, a large area of zombies in the middle have been cleared out by us, and it is far away from where we are now, so the probability of covering multiple level 4 zombies will be much smaller." Qiushu Zillion nodded. This method is feasible, but he rejected it outright. "It's indeed far from the land, but have you considered the sea?" Wang Qiushu said indifferently, "What's there to be afraid of in the sea? They can't get ashore. Even if there are some crabs and lobsters, they won't be very fast, which is enough for us to escape. Besides, didn't we only attract a crab man last time? We didn't even see any other zombies." He shook his head. "That's not the case. The ocean accounts for 70% of the total area, and the species of creatures in it are much richer than on land, not to mention the number Therefore, it is not surprising that zombies of any level are raised in it. Once the coverage of the title is large enough, it is very likely to attract some unknown things from the deep sea. If they can't get ashore, it's okay, but I'm afraid they will turn the land into the ocean and become their home ground. Or it may be that kind of large mutant octopus, directly dragging us into the sea and beating us up. Wan Kyushu's face turned pale. Forget it, we can't beat them in the sea. Qi also nodded solemnly. She really didn't think of these just now. Although she could transform into a crab, if the opponent was originally a water creature and the level was higher than her, she still couldn't beat it. He looked at the sky again. Moreover, the rain clouds are accumulating more and more, but it's not raining. I'm more worried that when we are halfway through fighting the level 4 zombies, Brother Ziopeo's group will suddenly come out to cause trouble. Wan Kyushu looked up at the sky in annoyance. Isn't it? It's fine if it doesn't rain, but there are so many rain clouds, making the weather so stuffy that I feel bad. Qi said, it seems that the scale of the next rain will be quite large. Since they had decided not to kill the level 4 zombies in a short period of time, they became relaxed again and used the juicer trap method again to lead the zombies into the juicer and then kill them all at once. Spider-Man turned into a lazy dog, killing at most one ordinary zombie a day. After eating, he would lie in Qi arms to rest and usually didn't move much. He looked at the little spider, then at Wan Kyushu. Is this like mother, like son? Wan Kyushu rushed towards him. I'll fight you. He waved his hand. Just kidding, but I just thought of a good idea to make the little spider move. Wan Kyushu let go of his hand. What idea? He chuckled. You'll know in a moment. Soon, the little spider ran out, and on its back was a stick, with a piece of zombie virus hanging from the stick with a rope hanging in front of it, which it could only see but not eat. It's not that it didn't think about taking the zombie virus down and eating it. After all, it smelled too good. However, after the three people's continuous Iron Fist education, it finally understood that the zombie virus could not be eaten. Then, after he educated the little spider ran out. Wan Kyushu asked curiously, are you sure it can understand you and know what you want it to do? He smiled. I'm not sure, but the concentration of the zombie virus is quite high. It only needs to rush out and run, and then the wind will blow it, and it will attract a lot of zombies. Qi on the side asked worriedly, will the little spider be in danger? He shook his head. Don't worry, I've already told it to run into the juicer. Then I will activate the special space to protect it, and after all the zombies go in, I will open the door and let it out. Qi breathed a sigh of relief. It will definitely not be dangerous. Chapter 281 Attack of the Little Spider. After a while, the figure of Little Spider appeared from the end of the street, running desperately. It seemed that there were terrible zombies behind it, so it didn't even walk on the road, but climbed on the outer wall of the building. Not long after, a large number of zombies finally appeared behind it, densely packed, and no one knew where it had led them from. The highest level among them should be level 2 zombies, and there were also speed zombies, but they still couldn't catch up with Little Spider, which shows how fast it is. Little Spider ran forward frantically, but he didn't run towards the juicer, but ran towards the building where they were. He took a look at the huge group of zombies. This time it's really like mother, like son. So many zombies, even if they are not high level, are enough for them to kill for a while. And he asked Little Spider to lure them at the beginning. Wasn't it because he didn't want to do it? When Wan Kyushu heard him scolding her for being stupid again, she immediately got angry. Just when she wanted to deal with him, she found that he was no longer there. The next second, he appeared downstairs and rushed towards Little Spider. He has been using his extreme speed ability recently. After all, it can run faster, and it is very useful for running away or providing support. If other abilities encounter speed type zombies, they can only passively take a beating. When Spider-Man saw him appear, it was like seeing a life-saving straw. His 8 legs barely touched the ground and slid over the outer wall. Then, when he was almost there, he jumped into his arms. He hugged Spider-Man and patted him. Don't worry, it's okay. Spider-Man looked at him, blinked, and tears were about to fall. It had never been chased by so many zombies before, and almost thought it was going to die. When the zombies saw him appear, they became more excited and rushed towards him. He waved at the zombies, and his body disappeared directly, appearing at the edge of the juicer, and then jumped in. Not long after, the zombies also rushed to the side of the juicer, jumped in without thinking, and soon filled the juicer. The juicer was also covered with a lid and started cutting. There were some zombies who were cautious, or didn't have time to go in. When they heard the sound of the juicer, they all took a step back. He happened to hold Spider-Man, and walked out of the juicer door. He took a look at the zombies, and then went back upstairs. If the zombies dared to chase him, he would just use his hands. Spider-Man looked frightened. He just saw the guillotine extending from the bottom of the juicer, cutting the zombies into pieces. He almost thought he was going to die. Although he didn't know what happened later, he would never go into the horrible juicer again. After a while, the juicer finally stopped and opened again. A pleasant smell came out of it, tempting the remaining zombies to go in. A gust of wind blew, and even Spider-Man unconsciously took 2 steps forward. QIU Zillion hugged Spider-Man and said, "Don't go. You will die." It was not until the juicer was closed again that Spider-Man woke up and looked scared. It was enough to see how attractive the zombie virus was to the zombies. After the juicer had dealt with the zombies, he looked at Spider-Man again. "Go, lure another batch of zombies back. As long as you run on the building, you won't be caught." Spider-Man shook his head frantically to refuse. It didn't want to be chased again, and it didn't want to enter the terrifying juicer. But under his iron fist, no, it was education. Spider-Man set off reluctantly. Wan Kyushu and QIU Zilan were happy to be free, so naturally they had no objection to this. If Spider-Man didn't go to lure them, then they would have to go. Now they can watch the show at ease. How nice it is. Spider-Man looked back every few steps, and looked at QIU Zillion pitifully. QIU Zillion clenched her little fists. "Come on, we will watch you here. If there is any danger, we will definitely save you." Spider-Man immediately accepted his fate, and ran forward along the outer wall of the building. Wan Kyushu looked at the lonely figure of Spider-Man. "I suddenly feel that we are too much. We actually exploit child labor." He nodded. "Indeed, especially you. You are its stepmother. And you have the ability of extreme speed. This job should be done by you." Wan Kyushu shook his head repeatedly. "It's not small anymore. It should exercise more, so that it can be independent in the future, and can't always live under our protection. So, this is just the process of it getting stronger." QIU Zillion looked at her sister. "What about me?" QIU Zillion smiled. "Aren't I training you now? It's just that you are not as powerful as Spider-Man, so you have to proceed step by step." QIU Zillion nodded. "I will work hard to become stronger with Spider-Man." They were chatting happily upstairs, and Spider-Man soon came back with the zombies. It subconsciously wanted to run to the building, but after seeing his clenched fist, it silently rushed towards the juicer. When the lid of the juicer was closed, the little spider walked out of the door that was opened in the juicer, dodged the attacks of the remaining zombies, and returned to the upstairs again. Then, the little spider went out again and again to lure the zombies. Until the end, it lay on the ground, looking like you can kill it or cut it, but I won't move anymore. QIU Zillion hugged the little spider with heartache. "Thank you for your hard work." Wan Kyushu said at the side, "There will be rewards for hard work. Didn't you notice that the little spider is running faster and faster?" QIU Zillion nodded. Wan Kyushu continued, "So, continue tomorrow. Don't stop. You have to fully stimulate its potential." QIU Zillion nodded again. The little spider looked at the two people and shed tears of emotion. He and QIU Zillion watched from the side, not knowing what to say. In this way, the little spider lived a life of running wildly every day, and his speed did increase a lot. However, if it could choose, it would definitely not choose such a life. That day, after he packed up the juicer, he walked back with a few people. Suddenly, a thunderbolt flashed across the front, lighting up most of the sky, and then a burst of thunder reached their ears. Little Spider and QIU Zillion were both shocked. The power of nature was so terrible that it almost made people think that they would be struck to death by thunder on the spot. QIU Zillion comforted QIU Zillion and frowned at the sky. He stepped on the pedal and walked back faster. "Hurry up, it's thundering, it's going to rain." If you stay outside, you will either be struck to death by lightning or be infected with the zombie virus. QIU Zillan nodded and hurried to follow. The few of them hurried and finally returned home before the rain. Chapter 282 Guessed Wrong. After dinner, QIU Zillan asked, "Will Ziopeo's group really come?" He nodded. "If I'm not mistaken, they will definitely come." Wan Qiushu interrupted, "Then, what if they are too far away from here, and they don't make it in time?" He shook his head. Remember the masked man before? Last time, he knew it was going to rain, so he let those people run away. So, he must know it this time. But with his cautiousness, he will definitely not show up so soon, but ambush somewhere near us, and wait until midnight to take action. QIU Zillan reminded. "Then, we can use the scan to check now. Maybe we can find their location." He sighed. "I don't know if they are lucky or cautious enough. I just checked with the scan. Anyway, I didn't see them in the scan range, not even a living person." Wan Qiushu frowned. Could it be that they have some special ability to avoid the scan? He thought for a moment. It shouldn't be possible. Even Zillan's invisibility can't escape the scan, let alone them. Moreover, they are a large group of people, and it is not easy to hide them all. Therefore, I'm more inclined to believe that they are hiding outside the range, and will drive over when the time is right. Of course, with their cautiousness, they will definitely abandon the car halfway and walk over. In short, no matter what, you can sleep well. I have already set up the alarm device. I will notify you if there is anything wrong. QIU Zillan looked at her sister who was playing with the little spider and nodded. He looked out the window. There were still lightning and thunder, but it hadn't rained yet. It's a dark and windy night, a day for murder and arson, so don't stand me up. Then, nothing happened that night. However, it was still raining the next day. Since it hasn't rained for too long, it is estimated that this rain will continue for a while, and will not stop so soon. While eating breakfast, QIU Zillan had two dark circles under her eyes and kept yawning. Wan Qiushu asked, "You didn't stay awake all night, did you?" QIU Zillan nodded, then looked at her. "What about you?" Wan Qiushu replied as a matter of course. He said it was okay, so I didn't care. Besides, it's raining, and listening to the sound of the rain, the air is a little cool. I don't know how comfortable it is to sleep. QIU Zillan's complicated mood was written directly on her face, and she turned to look at him. "Didn't you say those people would come?" He said embarrassedly. "That's just my guess. I don't have any other information, so it's normal to guess wrong. However, if I had known that you would be so worried that you couldn't sleep, I wouldn't have told you." QIU Zillan yawned, and then asked, "Are we going out today?" He looked outside, and it was still raining heavily, and shook his head. "No, we are not going out. It's raining today, so we can stock up some more water. There are more people now, and water is used up quickly. If we don't stock up more, it won't be enough." QIU Zillan nodded. "Then I can catch up on some sleep after moving the water. I'm so sleepy." Wan Qiushu interrupted. "It's okay, you can just catch up on your sleep after breakfast. Carrying water is not a heavy job, we can do it, and we have plenty of time today." He also nodded. QIU Zillan looked at Spider-Man excitedly. "We can go and carry water later." Spider-Man blinked in confusion. QIU Zillan glanced at her sister, then looked at him. "Help me keep an eye on my sister, don't let her get infected later." He nodded. "Don't worry, we will watch her. After all, there is zombie virus in the rainwater, and it will be troublesome if you eat it. The system does not have the corresponding medicine to prevent infection." So, after breakfast, QIU Zillan went to catch up on her sleep without worry. He and Wan Qiushu began to carry water in the heavy rain. These buckets had been outside for a night, and were already full of water. QIU Zillan also wanted to go out to help, but was stopped by him. The water splashed outside, and it was easy to splash into the mouth. He said to Zillion, "If you want to play with water, go upstairs. There is clean water there." QIU Zillion looked upstairs, then looked outside, and shook her head. He had no choice but to say, "Then you can stand here and play. You can't go out, and you have to wear a mask. Otherwise, if you become a zombie, the little spider will suck you dry." QIU Zillion looked at the little spider, then looked at him, and shook her head firmly. The little spider won't bite me. The little spider nodded. He was speechless. It was not easy to fool children nowadays. In the end, he could only warn, anyway, you can't go out, otherwise I'll ask your sister to take you back. QIU Zillion responded, I know. Then, she stretched out her little hand, and watched the rain dripping on her hand, and accumulated in her hand, and turned into a pool of clear water. The little spider also imitated her, and stretched out a leg, but the rain slid down its smooth fur, and couldn't hold it at all. QIU Zillion looked at the clumsy little spider, suddenly picked up the little spider, and threw it out. It was the first time the little spider was caught in the rain. Although the rain did not wet its fur, it still ran back in a panic, and cleaned the water droplets on its body. Seeing QIU Zillion approaching it, it quickly backed away, keeping its distance, fearing that it would be thrown out again. QIU Zillion was bored and started to collect water again. After a while, she found that the little spider actually stretched its head out and opened its mouth to collect the rain from the sky. He happened to pass by and warned him, don't learn it. QIU Zillion frowned and asked, why can the little spider drink the rainwater directly, but I can't? He replied, the little spider is a zombie. There is a zombie virus in the rainwater. It will be fine if it drinks it. But you are a human. If you drink it, you will become a zombie. Do you want to become a zombie? QIU Zillion nodded, not quite understanding. Then can your sister drink it? Wan Kyushu replied, your sister is also a human, so she naturally can't drink it. If she becomes a zombie, you will be left alone. QIU Zillion said quickly, then I don't want to be alone. He nodded, so you have to be careful, and don't get the water in your mouth. QIU Zillion quickly stepped back a few steps, to stay away from the rain outside. He and Wan Kyushu continued to carry the water, and used a water purifier, to purify it while carrying it. After a while, QIU Zillion suddenly found them and cried, little spider is dead. The two were shocked. How could little spider suddenly die? They quickly followed QIU Zillion downstairs. But they saw little spider lying on the ground with his stomach, swollen from drinking too much rainwater. His 8 legs were drooping, and he seemed to be really dead. Chapter 283 Little Spider Upgrade. Wan Kyushu looked at QIU Zillion. How could the little spider be like this? What happened just now? Think about it carefully, and tell me slowly. Don't be anxious. QIU Zillion sobbed, I don't know either. The little spider had been drinking water here just now, and then suddenly lay down. I thought it was pretending to be dead. I moved it, but it didn't respond, so I hurried to find you. Come and see, is the little spider dead? Was it poisoned by the rain? After listening, Wan Kyushu frowned. It shouldn't be. There is nothing else in this rain except the zombie virus. It's a zombie. How could it be poisoned? They have been purifying the rainwater upstairs, and apart from the zombie virus, they did not find any other impurities or anything like that. If there is, it will definitely show up. He directly dragged the little spider who was still in the rain back, and found that there was indeed no movement. Moreover, he didn't know where the little spider's heart was, so naturally he couldn't listen to the heartbeat, let alone check the breathing, and it was not even certain whether the zombie was breathing. QIU Zillion asked nervously, is there still hope for the little spider? Wan Kyushu suggested, why don't we give it some healing medicine to try? Or, could it be that the concentration of zombie virus in its body is too high, and it has been poisoned? Or should we make a hole in its stomach and let out some blood? No, black liquid? He did not respond to the two, but turned on the scanner. Then, he said, don't worry, the little spider is fine. Wan Kyushu and the other two said in unison, is it fine? He nodded. The little spider ate a lot of zombies before, and I thought it was going to upgrade, but it didn't move. Now it seems that it just didn't have enough zombie virus accumulated in its body. And today, after it found zombie virus in rainwater, it began to ingest zombie virus by drinking water. After reaching the critical point, it began to upgrade, which is what we see now. He also confirmed this speculation by seeing the green dot representing the little spider on the scanner. QIU Zillion asked, well, what should we do now? How long will it take for it to wake up? Wan Kyushu also said, it has been raining here all the time. Isn't it too wet? Should we move it to another place? He thought for a while. The growth of ordinary spiders is the same as that of crabs. They have to shed their skin every time they grow up because the old shell has restricted the growth of their bodies. Only by removing the old shell can they grow bigger. In order to shed the shell smoothly, a certain humidity must be maintained, otherwise it will get stuck in the shell. I think the little spider should be the same. So, let's move it to the side. It is raining now, and the air humidity is still quite high. As long as it is not drenched by rain, it should be fine. Hearing this, Zillion picked up the little spider and walked to the side before putting it down. Then she squatted down beside it, looking very nervous. Seeing this, the two did not say anything else, but just reminded her to remember to shout if there was anything, and they would come as soon as possible. Until they finished moving the water, Zillion was still guarding the little spider, and the little spider still did not move. Wan Qiushu asked curiously, I remember that its mother successfully shed its shell last time, why is it so slow? He replied, its mother's stomach was blown up, and she can only be reborn by shedding her shell. Besides, wasn't her strength greatly weakened later? Little spider is upgrading, and it's the first time to upgrade, so it's normal to spend some time. When it was time for lunch, Zillion still stayed beside little spider and refused to leave. Wan Qiushu saw that he couldn't persuade Zillion, no matter how hard he tried, and he didn't know what to do. He even considered whether to let Zillion come, but then the two sisters might be unhappy again. He walked up to Zillion and said, the little spider is upgrading now, nothing will happen. But if you don't eat, you will faint from hunger soon, and then you won't be able to see the little spider when it comes out. Zillion looked at him. I won't faint from hunger, I'll wait until the little spider comes out. And I've tried it before, when I had nothing to eat. I won't faint from hunger if I skip a meal. Wan Qiushu found this a little funny. Your IQ has been crushed. He thought about it and changed his words. It's like this, the little spider is upgrading now and growing, and when it comes out, it will become bigger. And if you don't eat, you won't have the strength. Will you be able to hold it later? Zillion looked at him. Will the little spider get bigger? He nodded. Of course. Otherwise why would it upgrade? It will grow bigger and bigger and become the same as the big spider before. If you don't eat, it won't grow up, and don't even think about holding it in the future. Zillion stood up directly. Then I have to eat, and I have to eat a lot. Wan Qiushu was relieved when he heard that. You still have a way. However, Zillion took 2 steps and stopped again. But, there is only little spider here. Will something happen? What if other zombies come to attack it? He shook his head. Don't worry, I just checked. There are no zombies nearby, so nothing will happen. Zillion insisted. What if? Otherwise, you bring the meal down. I'll eat here. He thought for a while. How about this? You and Sister Qiushu go to eat first. I'll help watch here. After you finish eating, I'll switch with you. Zillion nodded. Then you must take good care of little spider. After getting his response, she rushed upstairs quickly, as if racing against time. Wan Qiushu looked at him. Thank you for your hard work. He sighed. It's okay, it's just a little late for dinner. You should still keep an eye on Zillion. Run so fast, don't fall down. Wan Qiushu nodded and chased after him. He squatted down beside the little spider and observed it. However, since the little spider lay down, there was no movement, and even no breath, almost like a corpse. If the scanner had not shown that the little spider was still alive, he would not have believed it. But, think about it carefully, this is also a survival strategy. After all, if you upgrade in the wild, it is a very dangerous thing. If you attract zombies of the same level, you will almost certainly die. Now that you have turned into a corpse without breath, as long as you hide well enough, it is almost impossible to be discovered or attract the same kind, which greatly ensures the safety of the upgrade. After lunch, Zillion continued to squat and wait until the evening, but she did not wait for the little spider to come out. After that, Zillion was forcibly taken back to sleep by Zillion. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284. The thief enters the house. At night, the heavy rain continued to fall, and there was no sign of the rain decreasing. It seemed that the rain, that had accumulated for such a long time, was going to fall all at once. In the distant street, a group of people wearing raincoats stepped on the puddles and moved quickly until they came to a building and stopped. This group of people had various knives in their hands. They didn't look like good people, and no one knew where they came from. One of them spat, "Bah, we have to go out on a rainy day. If we accidentally drink this rainwater, we will turn into zombies immediately. They really don't treat us as human beings." Another person reminded in a low voice, "Say less. If we don't do well this time, we may lose our lives. At worst, we will be sent to be used as materials." Everyone shuddered together, obviously knowing what the fate of being used as materials would be. The man just now stiffened his neck and said, "That's why I'm not afraid of them. I'm almost dead. How can I be afraid of them?" Someone whispered, "Old dog, you've been sniffing here for a long time. Have you smelled anything?" The man called Old Dog said impatiently, "Why are you urging me? If you have the ability, come and smell it." The man said disdainfully, "I don't have a dog's nose. How can I smell it?" The old dog was unhappy and turned around and said, "If you say it again, I won't knock you down today, and I won't be called Old Nine." Someone quickly came out to smooth things over. "Brother Nine, don't bother with him. Hurry up. I heard that the opponent this time is very difficult to deal with. If we alarm them, we will all be finished." The old dog snorted coldly. "If it wasn't for the rain that washed away the smell, would I have to spend so much time?" The man who was trying to smooth things over quickly responded, "Yes, yes, yes." The old dog turned around, his nose constantly twitching, and after a while pointed to the side. "There is their smell." Everyone was startled and shone their flashlights in that direction. They clenched their knives tightly, ready to fight at any time. Someone asked in a trembling voice, "Could it be that we were ambushed?" At this time, the man who scolded Leo Gao before said disdainfully, "Look at your cowardly looks. There is nothing there, just the corpse of a zombie spider. From the looks of it, I don't know how long it has been dead." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and then looked at Leo Gao. Leo Gao was embarrassed. "How do I know it's a corpse? There is clearly their smell over there." As he spoke, he walked towards the spider corpse, as if he was ready to vent his anger. The man who was trying to smooth things over quickly grabbed the old dog. "Brother Jiu, business is more important. It's just a corpse. Why bother?" The old dog then came back and sniffed the upstairs again, then said with certainty, "Those people are in this room." The previous man said again, "I don't know if it's true or false. What if it's the same as before?" The old dog was embarrassed and angry. "Believe it or not, anyway, I've said it, and my mission is completed." The man who was trying to smooth things over shouted to the back of the crowd, "Zioli, come up quickly, it's your turn. And you guys, keep your voices down later, don't alarm anyone." A small man with shifty eyebrows and rat eyes came out, took out a piece of wire, and poked it at the keyhole for a while. There was a click sound, and he smiled, and turned back and said, "It's okay." However, he did not open the door, but walked back directly. After all, it's not surprising that a house of survivors like this has many traps in it. He didn't want to be shot to death by arrows. As soon as he opened the door, the rest of the people looked at each other, unwilling to be the fool. The person who was trying to smooth things over cursed inwardly, then said to a fat man, "Brother Fat, it's up to you next." The fat man was stunned for a moment. "Leave it to me. I won't do it. Don't think I'm stupid, or that I'm easy to bully." The person who was trying to smooth things over said quickly, "That's impossible. It's just that you are our boss this time. As the boss, you should naturally lead by example, don't you think?" The people behind him said quickly, "Yes, yes, yes." The fat man was not stupid either. "Hasn't it always been you our boss? When did it become me?" The person who was trying to smooth things over rolled his eyes. "We just elected you collectively. After all, I'm old and it's hard for me to convince the crowd. You are different. You are still young and strong. They dare not disobey you. The most important thing is that being the boss will get more rewards and more food." Hearing this, the fat man wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and patted his chest. "It's a deal." I'm your boss now. No one is allowed to snatch it from me. The person who was trying to smooth things over nodded, then gestured to the door. Boss, please. The others cursed at the old fox for being too shrewd, but no one stepped forward to stop him. They didn't want to be pushed into the trap. The fat man didn't think much about it, and he stepped forward and put his hand on the door handle, then pulled the door open. Those people stepped back, but found that nothing happened, and they were relieved. Someone said, could it be that we are worrying too much? There are not even zombies around here, let alone survivors. Maybe it's because they are in such an environment that they hardly take any precautions? The others nodded. That makes sense. Generally speaking, in addition to setting up traps that are ready to go off at any time, such as arrows, at the gate, there are also black liquids of zombies on it, which will pour on people once they enter, and they will be infected and become zombies. Or they will spray some pepper or poisonous gas. In short, it is impossible to prevent it. And there are no traps here, which inevitably makes people feel that it is too simple. The fat man looked at them with disdain. You are so timid. You want to be the boss. After saying that, he pushed the door open and walked in. Those people took another step back, waited for a while, and found nothing unusual, and did not hear the fat man's screams, then slowly followed. As a result, after they went in, they found that the fat man was standing in front of the stairs, but he did not step on it. Someone asked, Fatty, what are you doing? Why don't you go up? The fat man pointed to an almost invisible red rope under his feet and said, there is a bell tied to this red rope. I don't know if it is a trap or used as an alarm. I dare not go. Someone stepped forward and took a look. Didn't the guy in the mask teach us how to see traps? This is definitely not a trap. It should only be used as an alarm. Just step over it. The fat man nodded and asked, but what if there is a bell on the upper level? The man looked at it for a while with a flashlight. There is no wire in front. Where does the bell come from? Let's go quickly. The fat man said took a step, and stepped on the upper step of the red rope, but it made a crisp ding sound. Chapter 285 Triggering the Alarm. The ding sound was so harsh in the silent night that even the sound of rain could not completely cover it up. The group of people's faces changed instantly. They did not expect to be exposed like this. If they had launched a surprise attack, they would still have a chance. Now that they are exposed, it means that they can only fight head on, and their chances of winning are much lower. The man just pushed the fat man. Are you too fat? Did you touch the red rope? Can't you be more careful? Now all of us are going to be killed by you. The fat man pointed to his feet aggrievedly. I didn't touch it, and the sound didn't come from the red rope, but from the bell under my feet. When I stepped down just now, a bell tied with a red rope suddenly appeared here, and then it rang. The man looked at it in disbelief, but found that it was, just as the fat man said, a red rope tied with a bell suddenly appeared on the empty stairs. He frowned. What the hell is going on? The fat man said aggrievedly, I told you it's none of my business. You just looked. There's obviously nothing here. The person who was trying to smooth things over came up. Why are you still saying so much? We must have been exposed. Let's rush up quickly. While they have just been awakened and haven't reacted yet, let's strike first. Everyone nodded together, tightened their knives, but no one rushed forward. The person who was trying to smooth things over looked and kicked the fat man at the end. It's all because of you that we are exposed. You rush first. The fat man patted the dust off his body. I'm the boss. I should have rushed first. Why did you kick me? After saying that, he hurried up, fearing that he would be kicked again. The person who was trying to smooth things over looked at Leo Gao again. You follow and report their location at any time to avoid being ambushed by them. Leo Gao followed reluctantly. Who gave him the ability? However, he looked at the fat man in front of him and secretly said to himself, fortunately there is a fat man in front to block the knife. Even if I die, I will not be the first one to die. After the fat man and the old dog went up, the person who was smoothing things over shouted to the people behind, hurry up and follow up. Those people wanted to say something, but after looking at the bulging waist of the other party, they still followed up resignedly because the other party had a gun. The person who was smoothing things over did not rush up until all these people rushed up. However, he kept a certain distance from the people in front of him and was obviously ready to run away if something went wrong. The people in front saw it, and although they had complaints in their hearts, they did not dare to say anything, so they had to delay as much as possible, and hung behind the fat man and the old dog. At the moment the bell was touched, a louder bell rang in his brain. This time it was a real bell, and the loud sound directly woke him up from his deep sleep, and he sat up directly. He patted his face to wake himself up, and complained, "This is not a bell, it's like a big bell hanging in my head, almost knocked me out." The bell was of course designed by him. The inconspicuous bell in front was put there to let those people know that there was an alarm. Even if those people were very careful, if they found the bell in front, they would naturally let down their guard and cross the staircase. However, the sound of the bell was so small that it was obviously impossible for him on the 8th floor to hear it, so it was just used to confuse those people. The actual alarm was a high-level bell. This completely invisible bell was produced by the system and directly connected to his brain. Once triggered, it would ring in his brain like before. Whether those people noticed the visible bell in front or not, they would not be on guard against a staircase with nothing on it. Therefore, when they stepped on it, the alarm would be triggered. At this time, the bell would appear. He spent 10 seconds to wake himself up, then shook Wang Qiushu's body. "Wake up, someone is coming." When Wang Qiushu heard this in his dream, he immediately jumped up from the bed, as if something had been triggered. With a pair of eyes shining in the dark night, "Someone is really coming." He nodded. "Yeah, but why do I feel like you seem very excited?" Wang Qiushu replied, "That's right, I finally waited for them, and I must take revenge this time. Moreover, after we deal with them, we will destroy their lair and get a lot of supplies." The corners of his mouth twitched. No wonder Wang Qiushu was so excited. It turned out that he had set his sights on the other party's supplies. However, this is indeed a good method, which is much more efficient than collecting them by themselves. He said to Wang Qiushu, "Then you change your clothes. I will go wake up Zilan and the others." Wang Qiushu nodded. He walked to the next room and knocked on the door. Qiu Zilan poked her head out. "Are they coming?" He nodded. Qiu Zilan said directly, "I'll go change clothes and wake Zillion up." Then she closed the door. He looked at the scan and saw that those people were going up floor by floor. The speed was not fast, so they should still make it in time. They had to say that they were lucky. They happened to move water today, so they stayed on the 2nd floor for a long time, leaving a lot of smell, which caused serious interference to the old dog. In addition, they naturally carried smells when they walked up and down the stairs, so the old dog naturally spent a lot of time to distinguish them clearly. Of course, the most important thing is that including the old dog and the group of people behind him, no one wanted to run into the people in the building so quickly and almost delayed as much as possible, so it gave them time. They were waiting at the corner of the 7th floor. As for why they were not on the 8th floor, it was mainly because they didn't want to dirty the 8th floor. After all, if blood splashed, it would be impossible for people to live there. Qiu Zillion was sleepy and didn't understand what was going on. She even nodded her head down and almost fell asleep again. Wang Qiushu asked, "Is it Brother Zhao Peo's group?" He shook his head. "I don't know, but it should be the person." Zillion said. "Because they move very slowly, they should be using our scent to determine our location." The scanner showed that 2 people were out of touch with the people behind them, and they would stop for a while on each floor. They must be people with a very sensitive sense of smell. Qiu Zillion held Qiu Zillion in one hand and held the Dragon Slayer spear in the other. "Should we strike first?" He rejected the proposal. "We don't know what weapons the other side has, so there's no need to take the risk. When they come up, we'll catch them off guard." Because of the scanner, he had never thought about upgrading the surveillance or anything, so he was a little at a loss at this time. Chapter 286 Taking Risks. Wang Qiushu asked, "What should we do now?" "Oh, the little spider is still outside, and I don't know if they have killed him." Qiu Zillion suddenly woke up. "Little spider? What happened to the little spider? Is there any trouble with the little spider?" He quickly said, "Don't worry, the little spider is fine. Maybe those people didn't find it, or they just thought it was a corpse and ignored it. This is just the little spider's good luck, but he did forget to move the little spider to a place or take some protective measures at night. But think about it, if you take special protection, it will be more likely to attract the attention of those people." QIU Zillion didn't believe it. No, I want to go downstairs to see how the little spider is. Then she struggled in her sister's arms. As a result, the movement was too loud, which directly alarmed the people downstairs. The one who was walking at the end, to smooth things over, directly shouted, "People are upstairs, rush up." Those people looked at each other and didn't move. This is not to receive the award, but to fight for their lives. Who dares to rush up first? The faster you rush, the faster you die. When the man who was trying to smooth things over saw that he could no longer command, he pulled out his gun from his waist and said, "Everyone, come on. If you don't, wait for the bullet." Those people looked at each other and walked up reluctantly, one slower than the other, for fear of rushing to the front. The fat man was the largest and had always been in the front, so he was still the first. However, he held the knife tightly in his hand, obviously knowing that it would be very dangerous. QIU Zillion also knew that the current situation was not good, so she quickly comforted her sister. Wan QIU Shu glanced at him and said, "What should we do now? They are about to rush up." He looked at the time. "It's not even 12 o'clock yet. It seems that we can only fight." Wan QIU Shu asked hurriedly, "What do you want to do?" As a result, he disappeared in the next second. The people downstairs were climbing the stairs with two trembling legs, and every step forward brought them closer to death. The man who was trying to smooth things over at the back couldn't force them too hard. After all, there were limited bullets. If they were pushed too hard, they might kill him first. The fat man was taking a step forward when he suddenly found a person in front of him. He didn't have time to think about it and swung the machete in his hand and chopped it down. The person who suddenly appeared was Li Wending. He had acquired the ability of extreme speed today, so he thought of using this ability to come over and see the situation. Facing the falling machete, he didn't even look at it, but waved his hand directly at the fat man's neck and then kicked the fat man. The next second, the fat man's head fell directly to the ground and his whole body leaned back, pressing on the group of people, and the people were knocked over. The blood spurting from the neck made several people behind him bloody. Suddenly, the group of people screamed and retreated frantically, fearing that they would be the next one. When the man who was trying to smooth things over saw this situation, he didn't run, but took 2 steps forward, raised his pistol and shot him. However, he had already gone back when the other party came forward, so he was not shot. Wan QIU Shu was startled to see him suddenly appear and hurriedly asked, "I just heard gunshots. Are you okay?" He shook his head. "I'm fine, but this adventure is still worth it. A group of them are holding knives, and only one of them is holding a small pistol. Also, looking at their looks, they don't seem to want to come up. They must have been forced." QIU Zillion asked, "Have you seen brothers Iopeo and the Masked Man?" She was more concerned about this. He shook his head. "These 2 people are as cunning as foxes, and they are not among this group of people. Maybe they also know that we are not easy to deal with, so they sent this group of people to lead the charge and confirm our location. As for what they want to do specifically, I'm not sure yet. At least, apart from this group of people, no other people were found in the scan." Wan Qiushu said directly, "Since those people are so weak, why don't we capture them first and then force them to tell us where their lair is?" He nodded. "That's a solution. The one holding the gun should be the leader among them. Let's leave him alone for a while. Zillion, take Zillion and hide for a while. The next scene is not suitable for children to see." QIU Zillion thought for a while, then "Be careful." Then she took her sister upstairs. QIU Zillion seemed to understand the current situation and did not clamor to see the little spider anymore. Wan QIU Shu swung the hammer of the earth excitedly. "How about we just rush out and kill everyone we see?" He shook his head. "Don't forget, that person has a gun. Although our equipment can resist some bullets from guns, you don't want to test the effect. Moreover, even if it can't penetrate, the impact of the bullet will not be pleasant when it hits the body." Wan QIU Shu looked at him. "Then you tell me what to do." He chuckled and took out a transformation needle. "You will know in a while." Downstairs, the man who was trying to smooth things over changed his face slightly after his shot missed, knowing that this time the opponent was very difficult. Then, he turned around and pointed the gun at those who were running downstairs. "I will shoot if you run again." Those people stopped one after another and looked at him with unfriendly eyes. The man who was trying to smooth things over was scared by the looks, but he still managed to say, "We have already blocked them upstairs. Just give it a try. If you win, you don't have to fight anymore, and you won't have to worry about anything for the rest of your life. If you lose, the worst that can happen is that you will lose your life. Anyway, it's meaningless to live like this now. Besides, you all know what will happen if you run away." Those people were hesitant when they heard that, but they finally walked back. Sometimes, death is also a kind of happiness, which is much better than being unable to die. The man who was trying to smooth things over breathed a sigh of relief. If these people really wanted to run away, there was nothing he could do. As for what he said just now, it was just to scare those people. In fact, he knew very well that only they came this time, and the boss and the others did not come. The group of people stood still again, but no one dared, and no one was willing to take the lead. After all, they all saw what happened to the fat man. The man who was trying to smooth things over glanced around and finally said, "Old dog, you go." Old dog was not happy and stiffened his neck. Just now I was the second one and ended up being splashed with blood and almost died with fatty. Now you want me to go first. You want me to die, right? Anyway, I won't go. Whoever wants to go can go. The man who was trying to smooth things over said directly, "You have the best nose. If the other party shows up, you will definitely be able to find it in the first time. As long as you react quickly, you will definitely not die." The people behind shouted, "That's right. As long as they are not the ones who go, it doesn't matter to them who goes up." Old dog took a look, made a sound of "pa," and walked up reluctantly. Chapter 287 Ruthless Killing. The old dog was forced to go up by the crowd, and he naturally felt uncomfortable. He was too lazy to sniff, and just went up. Anyway, he was the first one, and had a high probability of dying, so it was better for everyone to die together. The man who was trying to smooth things over frowned, then walked forward, and said with a smile, "Brother dog, why don't you use your nose to sniff before going? Is it time for transformation?" The old dog snorted coldly, and was too lazy to answer. The man who was trying to smooth things over suddenly took out a transformation needle, and stabbed the old dog. "You are very important to us this time, so I can only make you suffer a little." The old dog's bloodshot eyes widened, and he held the knife, and slashed at the man who was trying to smooth things over. The side effects of this transformation needle are extremely large. Even if you are lucky enough not to turn into a zombie, continuous injections will cause a great loss of vitality. If you are injected many times in a row, you may even age to death. Since the other party wants him to die, he won't be polite. The worst case scenario is that they will die together. However, the man who was trying to smooth things over had been prepared. He pointed his gun directly at Liu Gao's head. "If you don't stop, I'll shoot you first. Don't think we can't do it without you." Liu Gao stiffened his neck and glared at the other person. "If you have the guts, just shoot me. I'll die if I keep going." The man who was trying to smooth things over didn't expect Liu Gao to be so tough. He was caught in a dilemma. At this time, a man came out from behind, holding a round instrument in his hand, which was exactly the same as the one Professor Wu had before, with red and green dots on it. He said to the man who was trying to smooth things over, "Red dots representing high-level zombies suddenly appeared nearby. It may be that someone upstairs used the transformation needle. Zombies will not move at night, let alone on a rainy night like this, so it can only be that someone has transformed." When the group of people behind heard that it was a high-level zombie, their faces turned pale. They knew too well what this meant. It is no exaggeration to say that a high-level zombie's eyes could scare them so much that they dared not move. The man who was trying to smooth things over snorted coldly and put his gun back. "What are you afraid of? No matter how good your kung fu is, you are still afraid of a kitchen knife. Wasn't the boss who shot the level 3 zombie in the head last time?" When those people heard this, their faces suddenly looked better. However, they subconsciously overlooked one thing, that is, the zombie was already disabled before it was shot in the head. If you want to shoot a zombie in the head, you must be able to hit the other party. And the man who was trying to smooth things over naturally would not specifically point this out, so as not to dampen morale. When Liu Gao saw that his gun was put back, he also snorted coldly, but did not continue to do it. After all, it is not a good feeling to have a gun pointed at your head and your life and death depend on someone else's thoughts. The man who was trying to smooth things over continued, "Anyway, don't be afraid of anything. I'm here. Now continue." Liu Gao continued to move forward reluctantly, and this time he didn't need to be urged. When they came to the 7th floor, the man holding the instrument said, "The energy reaction is more intense. The target should be very close to us." The old dog glanced at the empty corridor and twitched his nose. "One of the smells is approaching here quickly, but why can't I see anyone?" The next second, the old dog's head seemed to be chopped by an invisible knife and suddenly fell to the ground. This scene was more frightening than the fat man being chopped just now. This time, he died without even seeing the shadow of the other party, so those people ran back. However, as soon as they turned around, they were ruthlessly killed. It was as if there was an invisible person holding an invisible knife, slaughtering them. Moreover, the killing started from the back of the team, and it was obvious that their retreat had been blocked. However, they could not figure out how the other party got around to the back. Some people did not want to die in such an unclear way, so they swung their knives at the air, but it had no effect. In the end, they still fell down, and they could not even see where the other party was, and they could not even cut the other party with a knife. The man who was trying to smooth things over was stunned for a moment, and then he found that more than half of the people he brought with him had died, and one person fell almost every second. And most importantly, the back road was blocked, which meant that he would also die here. So he rushed out directly, pointed his gun forward, but didn't know where to shoot. In the end, he had to randomly fire 2 shots at the air. However, all the bullets hit the wall, leaving 2 bullet holes. There was no sound of the other party being shot, and no blood or black liquid was seen flowing on the ground. Obviously, both shots missed. Suddenly, he felt a sag on his shoulder, and his whole body could not move. Then, there was a click, and in the horrified eyes of the remaining group of people, the small pistol broke into 2 pieces. Only then did he and Wang Qiushu come out from the corner of the stairs. Wang Qiushu stretched out her hand, holding the soul-breaking sword, and just retracted it. The massacre just now was naturally all her work. In order not to be hit, she chose to stretch her arms. In this way, the body can hide in a safe place, and only needs to stretch out both hands. As for invisibility, it was an ability he acquired from Qiuzhan again after 12 o'clock. At the beginning, he took Wang Qiushu to hide in the corridor on the 7th floor. When the old dog appeared, he saw the other party's nose twitching, and knew that the other party had a keen sense of smell, so he asked Wang Qiushu to stretch out his hand, to kill the old dog first. Then, while the group of people were in chaos, Wang Qiushu stretched out his arm, and took him down the stairs, directly blocking the retreat of the group of people to ensure that no one was let go. As for why he only cut off the gun instead of the hand, it was not to show off, but mainly because he didn't want to waste healing medicine. After all, they still have to interrogate the other party in a while. If they cut off the hand, if the other party dies from excessive blood loss, it would be a waste of effort. The rest of the people were completely confused. How could they fight? The opponent's knife was like cutting iron like mud, and it could even cut off a pistol. The kitchen knives in their hands were like children playing house. Someone came forward and begged for mercy. "Can you let me go? I didn't want to come here, but I was forced to do it." He shook his head. Being forced was not an excuse. If he hadn't had a bell to sound the alarm, the consequences would have been unpredictable. The knife of life and death swung, and the head fell to the ground. The remaining people saw that begging for mercy was useless, so they wanted to fight with their knives in hand. In fact, they were secretly glancing at the stairs, probably wanting to force the 2 of them back, so that they could escape. However, as soon as they came in front of Wang Qiushu, their bodies could not move, and they could only watch the other party's knife cut across their throats. In the end, there were only headless corpses on the ground and the man who was trying to smooth things over. The man looked at the corpse beside him with a numb look in his eyes. He took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it tremblingly. "Ask if you want to know anything. I just hope you can give me a quick death." Chapter 288 Little Cannon Brother again. Wang Qiushu was a little surprised. "How did you know?" We have something to ask you. The man exhaled a puff of smoke and sighed. Everyone is dead. Only I'm left. Isn't it obvious? The series of plans just now should not be what you think. Wan Qiushu replied. No, it was his idea. The man had an expression, as if it was just as expected. Heroes emerge from youth. I deserve to lose this time. Wan Qiushu took a while to react, and was about to rush forward with a knife, but was stopped by him. Don't be anxious. There will be plenty of opportunities to deal with him later. The man spoke again. If you can't give me a quick death, I won't say anything. Wan Qiushu was angry. You just mocked me for being stupid, and now you have become a prisoner. Is it your turn to decide whether to speak or not? We have plenty of ways to pry your mouth open. The man smiled. But you don't have enough time to pry my mouth open. He nodded. Yes, time is the most precious. As long as you answer my questions, I can give you a quick death. The man replied. Okay. Wan Qiushu walked aside angrily. Forget it. Go ahead and ask. I don't care. He glanced at the angry Wan Qiushu, then looked at the man and asked, who sent you? The man put down the cigarette. Our boss is called Brother Zhao. After the fat guy's hometown was taken over, we came here to inquire about the news. Because the base is willing to spend a lot of money to capture you alive. Of course, dead is also okay, but they want a discount. He nodded, which happened to match what Zhao said, and he was indeed Brother Zhao's man. He then asked, are you the only ones who came this time? The man exhaled a puff of smoke. Yes, Brother Zhao seems to be very familiar with you. He didn't let us set out until yesterday, and didn't let us get close, so we came here tonight. Although we know we are dead this time, we can't not come. After all, there are many things worse than death in this apocalypse. And we can't afford to offend Brother Zhao. Wan Qiushu said disdainfully. TSK, what is worse than death? The man glanced at Wan Qiushu and laughed. For example, feeding zombies, hanging on the pool, and then the zombies jump up and eat you bit by bit. Until you die, you can feel your body being torn apart by the zombies. Of course, this is not the worst. The worst is to be sent as material. It is said that a series of experiments will be carried out, and the transformation needle is made in this way. Wan Qiushu was a little surprised, and said, it seems that only one of you has turned into a zombie, and the others have not. The man nodded. The one called Leo Gao gained the abilities of a dog zombie after being injected with the transformation needle. The transformation needle is a thing that will likely turn you into a zombie after being injected, so we all don't want it. Besides, Brother Zhao won't let so many of us turn into zombies, not to mention it will cost a lot of transformation needles. If so many of us turn into zombies and have our own powers, we won't listen to him obediently anymore. He seemed to remember something and asked, you mentioned the pool just now. Was there a guy in a mask with Brother Zhao? The man looked at him in surprise. Do you know each other? It seems that Brother Zhao has known you for a long time. We haven't seen the masked man very often. We hide all day and feed him those fish. They are called fish, but they are actually zombies. The only time we met him was when someone was hung up to feed the fish, and we haven't seen him since then. He nodded and asked, are you sure Brother Zhao and the masked man didn't come, and they just asked you to come? The man took his last puff of the cigarette. Well, at least this is what I know. I don't know what they actually do. Maybe they are doing something behind the scenes. He sighed, and then said, I have asked all my questions. The man took the cigarette, but out of his mouth. Give me a quick death. In this end times, people are worse off than dogs. It is a good thing to die early. He nodded, and a knife of death and life slashed across, and the man was instantly dead. Wan Qiushu asked, can we trust his words? He replied, it should be trustworthy, unless he is controlled by Brother Zhao, or he is so loyal to Brother Zhao that he is willing to sacrifice his life. Otherwise, it is impossible for him to have no resentment for Brother Zhao sending him to die. However, he did not provide much useful information. He just let us confirm that the other party is Brother Zhao and the masked man. As for their movements, we know nothing. Wan Qiushu frowned. Do you mean that Brother Zhao and the masked man may also come? He nodded and sighed. It's not possible. It's that they have come. I know that these people can't come to die for no reason. Now it seems that they should come to inquire about the news and determine our location by the way. In the scanner, many red dots appeared, but those red dots were not close to here, and it was unknown what the other party was planning. Wang Qiushu looked at him. What should we do now? He said directly, let's go upstairs to meet Zilan first, and then see if we can sneak over and kill those people. The two hurried upstairs. Qiu Zilan took her sister and hid at the staircase on the 8th floor. When she saw the two people coming up, she showed up. How are you two? Are you okay? He shook his head. No, but these people were indeed sent by Brother Zhao Peo. The masked man is with him. A strong murderer Sora emerged from Qiu Zilan. Where are they? Are they downstairs? I'll go kill them now. Wang Qiushu was about to speak, but he stopped her with his eyes. He continued, calm down first, don't scare Zillion. As for what will happen next, we still need to discuss it carefully and make a corresponding plan. Qiu Zilan looked at her sister in her arms, forced herself to calm down, and then asked, is it not scary? Qiu Zilan shook her head and hugged her sister silently. At this time, there was a sudden whistle, and then a loud bang, as if something exploded. They were all startled and squatted down subconsciously. Wang Qiushu was surprised and asked, what happened? He quietly touched the windowsill and looked out. I didn't expect those people to have heavy weapons. They must have used a rocket launcher or something to blow up the apartment building next door. Wang Qiushu patted his chest and said, fortunately, they didn't aim well, otherwise we would have become cannon fodder. He shook his head. On the contrary, they aimed very well and happened to blow up our floor. Chapter 289 Sailor. Wang Qiushu was a little confused. No, didn't they bomb the next door? How can you say they bombed accurately? Are you scared silly? Qiu Zilan explained. After eliminating the accidents, they bombed the next door and on the same floor, which is to warn us that they know our location. The meaning is very clear. This time it's the next door, and the next time it will be here. They want to force us out. Wang Qiushu frowned. Aren't they still some distance away from here? Why force us out? Besides, maybe you guessed wrong. They are just firing randomly to scare us out. What if we really go out? Wouldn't it be easy to fall into their trap? He sighed. This is an open conspiracy. You heard what the man said just now. Life or death. It's just that death is not that valuable. So, whether they are scaring us or not, we can only go out. Otherwise we will only become cannon fodder. After all, our equipment can't withstand such powerful shells. Wang Qiushu snorted. Then go out and fight them with real swords and guns. I don't believe it. Qiu Zilan thought for a moment. This is the only way. The scanner showed that the group was in front, so they directly cut open the anti-theft net of the window at the back, and then Wang Qiushu first brought Qiu Zilan and her sister to the ground. After all, Zillion was still young and had no ability, so she had to be looked after by Zilan. So Zilan tied Zillion to her body with clothes, and then fell to the ground together. After landing, Zilan took her sister to hide, and then rushed forward. It was still unknown how the other party found out their location, and she didn't dare to let her sister stay alone, which would be more dangerous. Then, Wang Qiushu went back upstairs, and took him to the roof next door. After all, it would be faster to go over the roof, and he and Zilan could act separately, and they could freely choose whether to fight or escape, so as not to be wiped out. Wang Qiushu took him to the roof as soon as he landed, and then stretched out his arms and climbed to the roof next to him, ready to go over. At this time, the two of them were invisible, and their location could only be discovered by looking at the rain falling on them and being separated. However, it was midnight, and at high altitude, normally no one could find their location. It was precisely because of this that they could launch a surprise attack without any worries. As long as they could get close to them, no matter how powerful the opponent's weapons were, they would not have to be afraid. Not to mention invisibility, Wang Qiushu's aura suppression alone could make them unable to move. However, when Wang Qiushu took him to the roof, he frowned and said to Wang Qiushu in his mind, something is wrong. This was to prevent rain from rushing into his mouth when he opened his mouth, and to prevent outsiders from knowing their communication. Wang Qiushu asked hurriedly, what's wrong? He replied. A lot of small red dots suddenly appeared around us. Small red dots that even ordinary zombies could not reach, but they seemed to be gathering and merging. Forget it, let's go to the roof first. There is no way to turn back now, and if we are hit in midair, we will fall and be half dead. Wan Kyushu nodded, and at the same time, began to be alert. Everything tonight was wrong, as if they were completely led by the other party. Before they landed on the roof, the red dots merged and appeared at their landing point. Wan Kyushu suddenly said, "Oh no." He looked up and saw a big hand made of water appear at their landing point, waiting for them to fall in. Unfortunately, they were in the air and had no way to use the force. Even if he gave up Wan Kyushu, he could only escape by himself, and Wan Kyushu could not escape. Wan Kyushu obviously understood this and said directly, "When you land later, don't worry about me, go first. You are invisible, so it won't be easy for the other party to catch you. You can find a way to save me later." He shook his head. "It's not that simple this time. We are invisible now, and the other party can still find our position and set an ambush first. Besides, without you, my combat power is almost zero, and it is difficult to escape. It's better to fight. Besides, leaving a woman and running away alone is not what a man should do." Wan Kyushu smiled. "Okay, then we will fight him." He took the hammer of the earth and directly separated the soul-breaking sword, and then handed the hammer of the earth to Wan Kyushu. "The other party should not know the existence of the death and life sword, so I won't take it out. Even if I'm caught, I can cut a rope or something." Wan Kyushu took the hammer of the earth and nodded. At this time, the two of them fell into the big hand on the roof together, and the big hand closed directly, as if trying to catch them. Wan Kyushu swung out the hammer of the earth, while he held the soul-breaking sword, and chopped it down fiercely. With a pop, the big hand seemed to be unable to withstand such an attack, and it suddenly exploded, and turned into water drops scattered everywhere. Wan Kyushu leaned back against him, and looked around vigilantly. Was it killed? He shook his head. It was just broken up, and turned back into the red dots just now. Wan Kyushu frowned. What on earth is this thing? Is it so difficult to deal with? He thought for a while. I don't know, but it must be a zombie. By the way, use your breath to see if you can suppress the opponent. Wan Kyushu heard the words and the breath on his body was directly emitted, but in this rain, it was like a drop in the ocean, and it had no effect. His eyes became solemn. Wan Kyushu felt it, at least the same level as me, or even higher. He nodded. Only in this way can he ignore Wan Kyushu's breath suppression. However, I don't know what Zhao Peiyu's group did to drive a level 4 zombie. You know, Wan Kyushu has only recently reached level 4. Suddenly, a stream of water sprayed directly at the two of them from the side, just like it was fired from a high-pressure water gun. Wan Kyushu quickly blocked in front of him, and at the same time, swung the hammer of the earth to smash it, trying to break the water column. He looked around vigilantly, and the other party would definitely not spray water. Sure enough, when the water column was about to be broken by the hammer of the earth, a hand made of water that was even bigger than before swept over from the other side. He quickly swung his knife and chopped it out, but it only made a mark, which was quickly repaired by water. With a bang, the two were swept off the roof by the big hand. Just as the two were falling, the big hand suddenly appeared from under them and grabbed them. Chapter 290 Masked Man in the Rain. On the other side, Kyushu was running wildly on the road with her sister, heading towards the direction where Zhao Peiyou and the others were. However, after seeing the big hand emerging from the roof, he hurriedly said, "Zilan, find a house to hide in first, to avoid the rain. There is something wrong here, probably related to the rain." Kyushu immediately hid in the house next door. When she heard it, she is not alone now. Her sister is also there, and she cannot take any risks. After entering, for the sake of safety, she did not stay for too long, and went upstairs again. In this way, even if the other party knew that she was in this house, they could not determine her exact location. However, not long after she went upstairs, he shouted, "Oh no, behind you." Kyushu turned around and stabbed out with the Dragon Slayer spear. It was not until the moment of the shot that she found that a big hand made of water broke through the window and stretched in. The dragon slayer spear stabbed over, but it only pierced the sailor, but failed to disperse him. As soon as she exerted force with her hand, the dragon slayer spear shook and spun even more violently, directly making a big hole in the sailor, but still failed to break the big hand. Seeing this, she hurriedly drew her spear and retreated, ready to find another opportunity. However, the big hand was not slow and swept over with a thunderous force. Seeing that there was no time to escape, she curled up her whole body and firmly protected her sister in her arms. With the same bang, Qi was swept out of the house, and even the wall was smashed. Qi hid in his arms, listening to her sister's screams of pain from the heavy blow just now, and was scared to tears. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of Qi mouth, and there was the whistling sound of the wind in her ears. She hugged her sister tightly, with her back facing the ground, and comforted her softly. "Zillion, don't cry. Sister is fine. Sister will not let you get hurt." Just when she thought she was going to fall to the ground, a big hand caught her and wrapped her up. She suddenly felt relieved and asked, "How are things going over there?" He smiled bitterly. "Just like you, we were swept away by the big hand and then caught. However, our injuries are not as serious as yours." Qi asked curiously, "What kind of zombie is this? This ability is too weird. There is no way to fight it. Moreover, what is the opponent's strength?" He sighed. "It is most likely level 4, or it may be level 3. In short, it hides in the rain, can disperse, can also merge, and can ignore one Qi breath suppression. Now I don't know what kind of zombie it is, but what is certain is that the opponent has the ability to control water. Maybe it is a fish raised by the masked man." Qi was shocked. "Isn't Qi also level 4? Level 4 against level 4, it should be able to fight." He replied, "Indeed, there are, but the other side simply didn't come out to fight us. We once broke up that sailor, and he turned into water splashes, and then merged again after a while. Considering that it is raining now, and it is the other side's home court, we might as well surrender and see what they want. However, since they want to capture us alive, we have protective gear on us, so our lives should not be in danger. It's just that I thought you could escape, but I didn't expect you to be targeted. This time you and Zillion will have to take risks together. However, after the rain stops, it will be a home court." Qi shook her head. This time the other side came prepared. "It's not your fault. Now think about it, the other side has been hiding in the rain and observing our movements early in the morning. No wonder they can know our location. Moreover, as long as we can kill them, what's the big deal about taking a risk?" He breathed a sigh of relief. "Then we'll just have to wait and see what happens next. I want to see who the other side is." Qi nodded. "Yeah." In a house in the distance, a figure slowly emerged from the rain and finally walked out, transforming into a masked man. "We have caught the people, a total of 4. Brother Xiaopeo clapped his hands. "Well, you did a good job this time, and you will definitely get the reward." The people on the side also clapped their hands, and at the same time, they looked relieved. If the masked man failed, it would be their turn. Although some of them carried rocket launchers and some held guns, they still didn't want to face such an opponent from the bottom of their hearts. Moreover, they knew very well that the group of people sent over earlier had been wiped out. 4 people can kill a group of people. What a terrifying strength. Even if they were allowed to go, the result would probably be similar. The masked man did not respond, but asked, "What should we do now? Wait until they finish their transformation, and then bring them here?" Brother Xiaopeo nodded. "Of course, I'll trouble you again. After they finish their transformation, with so many of us, and so many guns, can they still turn the world upside down?" The masked man looked at those people with disdain, and stepped back step by step back into the rain. During the chat, his hands were always connected to the rain behind him. On the one hand, it was naturally to restrain the few of them, and on the other hand, it was to ensure his own safety, so as not to be abandoned by Brother Xiaopeo. A person next to Brother Xiaopeo was annoyed by the masked man's eyes, and stepped forward to speak. "Brother Xiaopeo." Brother Xiaopeo raised his hand, and put up a palm. "Don't say anything, let the brothers prepare, and keep an eye on those people. Whether we can live a good life in the future depends on them. I will make a phone call and ask the people from the base to come over. The man nodded and said nothing more. Brother Xiaopeo walked to the side and started to make a phone call. At the same time, he glanced out, but he could only see the rain falling from the sky. He naturally knew what his men wanted to say, and he was also very unhappy with the masked man. However, the water was the world of the masked man. Maybe the masked man had been hiding in the rain and watching them. So, for safety reasons, he stopped his men. He didn't want his men to be killed. At that time, he couldn't fall out with the masked man, which would affect his prestige. He gritted his teeth secretly and thought to himself, after I exchange more resources with the base this time, I can continue to upgrade. As long as I'm strong enough, he will have to kneel down and be my dog. Now let him show off for a while. On the other side, about 7 or 8 minutes later, he had agreed with Wang Qiushu and Qiu Zilan in advance, and then he lifted the transformation at the same time. In addition, the three of them pretended to be exhausted. Then, they were sent to the house, where Brother Cannon was. When they were thrown into the house from the rain, countless guns and cannons were already aimed at them. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Disharmony between the two. He looked up and saw gun muzzles of various sizes all around him. He estimated that, if he dared to move, he would be shot into a sieve. No, being shot into a sieve was considered good luck. Maybe he would be beaten into pieces. He smiled. No need to welcome us with such a big fanfare. Little Cannon Brother hid behind the crowd. Who told you to be too strong? We are just trying to be on the safe side. When Qiu Zilan saw Little Cannon Brother, she immediately became excited. Where is the masked man? Where is he? Little Cannon Brother naturally recognized Qiu Zilan and smiled playfully. Masked man? This nickname is quite appropriate. You ask me where he is? Didn't you fight just now? Qiu Zilan was shocked. Was it him just now? He was also shocked. He thought it was the big fish zombie raised by the masked man, so he had the ability to control water and become invisible in the water. He never expected that it would be the masked man himself. However, no matter how powerful the masked man is, he will not be able to upgrade directly from 0 to level 4. Moreover, the masked man is a good fish farmer, but there was only one sailor just now. If there is a big fish zombie, at least 2 sailors should attack together. Therefore, the masked man is very likely to merge with the big fish, or borrow the ability of the big fish, to compete with Wang Qiushu. Moreover, since Brother Xiaopeo directly revealed the information about the masked man, it seems that he and the masked man are not the same kind of people. There should be disagreements and even internal conflicts between them. At this time, Brother Xiaopeo waved his hand. Someone came forward with a super thick iron chain and tied up all 4 of them, even Zillion. In addition, someone searched them, but only found a few weapons, and did not find anything else, not to mention the transformation needle. Fortunately, the person in charge of the search was a woman, otherwise, he would probably have killed people now. Everything can be tolerated, but this is the only thing that cannot be tolerated by people. Brother Xiaopeo frowned. You don't have a transformation needle. How did you transform? He snorted coldly. If the transformation needle hadn't just run out, we wouldn't have been caught by you so easily. Brother Xiaopeo nodded. That's right. The previous man stepped forward and suggested, Brother Xiaopeo, how about we search their house? They have taken out the fat man's lair before, and they must have gained a lot. Brother Xiaopeo was a little tempted, but finally waved his hand. Forget it. Don't lose the big picture for the small. Send the people away first. When we are free, we will send people to look for them slowly. What if they have set up all kinds of mechanisms and traps in there? The man nodded in agreement. Brother Xiaopeo is wise. Then Brother Xiaopeo picked up the soul-breaking sword again and casually chopped it on the table next to him, cutting it in half with one stroke. Good sword. These weapons alone will make a fortune. With these weapons, we can be said to be invincible in the future, and we don't have to worry about not being able to chop zombies. At this time, the masked man walked out from the rain. Although it was raining heavily outside, there was not a drop of water on his body. Moreover, the redness of his eyes faded quickly, and he turned back to his normal appearance. However, he did not seem to trust Xiao Peoje and his gang. He put one hand in his pocket and his body was not far from the rain behind him, ready to go back in at any time. Xiao Peoje waved the soul-breaking knife, and looked at the masked man with a generous look. "I want this knife. You can choose one of the hammer and the gun." The others were also very jealous of these weapons. When they heard what Xiao Peoje said, they also looked at the masked man. The masked man glanced at Xiao Peoje and shook his head. "I don't need weapons." Those people were relieved immediately. This way, there were still 2 weapons, and the probability of them getting a share was a little higher. Xiao Peoje said regretfully, "Is that so? Then I'll give you more of the rewards I get when the time comes." The masked man replied, "I don't mind." Then he walked to a dark corner, as if he was not going to continue this boring conversation. Brother Xiao Peo snorted coldly, and then said, "Put away the gun and hammer first, and we will reward them later." Everyone was delighted, and they were all thinking about whether they would have the chance to get such a magic weapon. After a while, the heavy rain still hadn't stopped. Brother Xiao Peo seemed a little impatient. "I don't know when the rain will stop. Forget it. Let's go back now, and we can have a midnight snack." The previous man was worried. "But, if we take people back, will it expose our position? We don't have many places to use, and we can't afford such trouble." Brother Xiao Peo said directly, "What are you afraid of? They have all been caught by us. Just wait until the people from the base come to pick them up tomorrow. Besides, they are tied up by us now. Can they still turn the world upside down?" The man hurriedly agreed. Brother Xiao Peo waved his hand. Let the brothers pack up and get ready to go. Then, they were taken to the car and blindfolded. It seems that, even if they are safe, they still haven't forgotten these small details. When getting in the car, Brother Xiao Peo shouted, "Masked man, are you getting in the car?" The masked man was stunned for a moment, and seemed to be very unhappy with Brother Xiao Peo's address. There was a hint of anger in his words. "No, I'll go back by myself." Brother Xiao Peo got in the car directly, closed the door, and said disdainfully, "He gets injections every day. I hope he can become a zombie soon. I believe the base will be very interested in this level 3 mutant material." The man next to him said, "That's right. If we hadn't worked hard to help him catch zombies, could he have been upgraded to level 3? Now it's good. He has some strength, but he turns his face and doesn't recognize us." Brother Xiao Peo was a little annoyed when he heard this. He is now a fish that can't leave the water. If it wasn't raining, would he dare to say no in front of me? He would have to kneel down and be a dog. Forget it. Let's not talk about it. Drive. The car started, and he silently digested the conversation between the two. Now it seems that the masked man's transformation needle should be a special ability. It could be the injected big fish gene, just like the old dog, or it could be a fusion, but there is not enough information to confirm which one it is. However, being able to fight level 4 with level 3 is indeed amazing. In addition, the reason why the masked man can upgrade quickly has been found. It turned out that he got help from Brother Cannon and others. Think about it, they have so many guns and cannons, it is really easy to kill zombies. And the masked man only needs to keep eating those zombies to achieve the purpose of rapid upgrade. In addition, the masked man really cannot live without water, or in other words, like the big fish before, only with water can he exert his greatest strength, or even extraordinary performance. Once there is no water, he can only be slaughtered. Maybe this is why the masked man would rather transform into a zombie than get on the car. Chapter 292 Little Spider Upgrade. Then, the car started, and he turned on the scanner, firstly to see the route, and secondly to see how the masked man caught up. The car went farther and farther away, but the red dot represented by the masked man remained motionless. After a long distance, the red dot moved forward a little, and then suddenly disappeared, turning into the tiny red dot he had seen before. And it floated forward all the way, as if it could teleport in the rain, and its speed was almost the same as that of the car. However, this was not the end. The red dot continued to subdivide, getting smaller and smaller, until finally, it could not be seen from the scanner. He sighed. No wonder the scanner had not responded before. Either the subdivision was too small to be detected by the scanner, or the masked man completely melted into the water, just like the big fish's invisibility in the water before. Because rainwater is not a living thing, it will naturally not be detected. In the middle of the journey, the masked man's red dot did appear once, but it disappeared again soon. He guessed that the masked man's transformation time was approaching, so he had to inject the transformation needle again. However, with the side effects of the transformation needle and the frequency of the masked man's injections, it was no wonder that Brother Xiaopao said that the masked man would become a real zombie sooner or later. Although it was a rainy night, the advantage was that the zombies at night were quiet, so the speed of these cars was very fast, and they stopped not long after. Looking at the large number of red dots that appeared nearby, he was sure that he had arrived. However, he was not familiar with this place, so he should not have been here before, nor had he scanned it. Come to think of it, if it appeared in the scanning range, he would have come here early to take it down. After the car stopped for a while, the masked man appeared again and quickly walked to the back of the house. I don't know what he was doing. He shook his head and felt sad for Brother Xiaopao at the same time. No wonder the masked man ignored Brother Xiaopao at all. Brother Xiaopao was completely played by the other party. Just now, if he hadn't scanned it, he would have thought that the masked man had just arrived. In fact, when the car stopped, he had already seen the red dots of the masked man merging. It was just that he had to wait for a while before the combined body appeared. Perhaps it was because of this show of weakness that Brother Xiaopao did not take the masked man seriously. If it weren't for him, Brother Xiaopao probably wouldn't know how he died until he died. Of course, there would be no such problem now, because both of them would die in his hands. They were quickly taken out of the car, but the blindfolds were still not taken off. Then they were taken to a house and left alone. However, he knew that this was only an appearance. At least there were two people standing outside the door. I think they must be holding guns in their hands, and will shoot at the slightest movement. There may even be cameras in this room, and someone is watching their every move. He stretched his body and finally managed to lean against the wall. You guys move back a little, there's a wall behind you. Wang Qiuyushu asked from the side. When can we start? This iron chain is so painful. He comforted. It's not stopping raining yet, and the masked man can just hide in the rain. He can't even be scanned. We can't get the upper hand against him. Besides, didn't Brother Xiaopao say that the people from the base will come to pick us up? Then we'll wait and take down the people from the base together. Wang Qiuyushu frowned. But didn't he say he would call to notify us? Is this true or false? There is no cell phone signal now. How can we still make a call? He sighed. Since the base has made preparations early in the morning and can even build such a large base, restoring cell phone signals must be in their plan. However, they should not be open to the public, or they can only support the use of special mobile phones. Wang Qiuyushu responded. Then it's useless. If I can get online, I can download some novels to read. He nodded and asked, Zhlan, are you two okay? Why haven't you said anything? Qiuyuslan said quickly, I'm fine. Zillion, how about you? Qiuyuslan replied, I'm fine too. I just don't know how little spider is doing now. Wang Qiuyushu smiled. We can't even protect ourselves now, and you still worry about little spider. Qiuyuslan shook her head. No, sister will protect me, and won't let anything happen to me. Sister, right? Qiuyuslan smiled. Yes, sister will protect you. He remembered that Qiuyuslan seemed to be injured just now, so he asked, is your injury serious? Do you want me to give you a healing pill? Qiuyuslan hesitated and said, forget it. What if there are surveillance cameras here? Won't they find out? By then, they will mistakenly think that you are hiding something on your body, and they will definitely search you and beat you up. Besides, I'm wearing protective gear, so this little injury is nothing. Qiuyuslan asked quickly, sister, are you injured? Were you beaten by the sailor just now? Are you okay now? Qiuyuslan smiled. Sister is fine. Then, the four of them simply leaned against the wall to rest. Anyway, they were not going to do anything now, so they might as well get some rest. However, the three of them were only in a shallow sleep. Only Zillion slept soundly. After all, she was still a child and had never stayed up all night. In addition, she was too nervous before, so she fell asleep quickly. Zillion listened to her sister's breathing and said to herself, "Sister will definitely protect you, and those two people, I will definitely not let them go." On the other side, under the building, the little spider that was mistaken for a corpse suddenly made a crack sound at its tail. Then, a crack began to appear. Then, the crack slowly began to expand and spread to both sides, revealing the inside. However, the inside looked exactly the same as the outside. The crack continued to move forward until the entire butt cracked, and then it stopped, while the front part of the body did not crack at all. The connection between the body and the butt became the dividing line of the crack. Then, the new butt began to move backwards, slowly squeezed out of the crack, and squeezed out little by little. After the entire buttocks were separated, part of the new body could be seen, which was brought out together. Then, it was another slow process, and finally, the head and feet were shed from the original body. Only a layer of empty shell remained of the original body. The new body became larger, and the aura on the body was much stronger than the original one. The little spider finally reached level 1. However, after crawling around for a while, it seemed to sense something, and then rushed directly into the rain curtain, running all the way. Chapter 293 Base Escort. The next morning, the four of them were taken out. The car that the base drove was similar to the one they had seized before, and the base seemed to attach great importance to this time, and the people sent were all armed. Although we don't know what type of guns they have, just looking at the larger caliber than ordinary guns, we know that they are powerful. In addition, they also wear stun guns on their waists, which can be said to be fully equipped. However, before taking the four of them into the car, the base people also tested them with the metal detector. Wan Kyushu and the others naturally had no problems, but when it came to him, metal reactions were detected every time. And every time it sounded in his fingers, but after checking with the naked eye, nothing was found, which made them puzzled. In the end, he had to explain, "My hand bones were broken before, and steel nails were inserted." Although the people at the base still had doubts, they had to accept this explanation, otherwise it would not be clear at all, because they really didn't see any metal hidden in the fingers. In fact, what was detected was the death, and no life knife, but because of its hidden properties, those people couldn't see it at all, and couldn't find it. If it weren't for the metal detector, he wouldn't have wanted to make up such a lie. After making sure there was no problem, the four of them were sent to the car and tied with thicker chains. Their hands were tied to the roof of the car, and they had to raise their feet to barely stand, even the youngest Zillion. Seeing her sister suffering so much, Zillion cursed, "Do you have any humanity? How dare you do this to a little girl?" The leader glanced at Zillion and said, "You are all dangerous people. If the base didn't allow it, I would want to tie bombs on you and blow you up if there was any unusual movement, so that I wouldn't be killed by you later." Zillion was so angry that her teeth itched, but she stopped talking. Instead, she comforted Zillion softly. He said, "Well, big brother, can we discuss something? The one at the farthest edge is my girlfriend. Can you arrange me next to her? Even if I die, I want to die with her." The leader looked at him and snorted, "You are quite infatuated." He smiled, "Yes, this is my only advantage." The leader's face turned cold. "No." He thought for a while, "Otherwise, I can give you any benefit you want. It's just a change of position. It's not a big deal." The leader still said, "No." After a while, he said again, "You have nothing on you. What benefit can you give me?" His smile froze on his face. He couldn't take something out now that would also arouse suspicion. He turned his head and looked to the side, thinking about what to do for a while. The four of them stood in a row. He was on the far left, next to him was Zillion, and the one in the far right was Wan Kyushu. With the current position, he couldn't touch Wan Kyushu. At most he could touch Zillion. However, it seemed inappropriate to do that. Not to mention how Zillion would react. What if Kyushu got jealous? He began to struggle madly. Finally, he sighed and decided to just wait and see. Brother Xiaopao and his men stood outside. How was it? Didn't make you run in vain? The leader smiled and said, no, they are indeed the people the base is looking for. However, you have also been issued this time, and the rewards are quite rich. I just don't know if you have any capable people who can actually catch them. Brother Xiaopao laughed. We survivors struggling on the brink of life and death don't have any capable people. We just dare to fight. Dozens of my brothers died just to catch them. Moreover, such a beautiful girl is not easy to find. I have been patient for a whole night. Fortunately, you came in time, otherwise it would be hard to say. The leader glanced at Brother Xiaopao. Fortunately, you didn't do anything, otherwise the reward would be discounted. You know how much the base attaches importance to the materials, and don't want the materials to be damaged or polluted. Brother Xiaopao hurriedly said, of course I know this, I was just talking just now. By the way, I have reserved your share of the reward, just come and get it when you are ready. The leader patted Brother Xiaopao on the shoulder. There is a future. Brother Xiaopao said respectfully, no, if I hadn't received your information this time, I wouldn't have been able to determine the target so quickly. Besides, you guys came here in the middle of the night, so it's only right that you share some of the rewards, just as hard work pay. The leader nodded with satisfaction. That's it for now, I'll send the materials back first, and come to find you later. The base is strictly controlled. It's too boring. It's better to be comfortable and free like you guys. Brother Xiaopao replied, you're joking. It's so safe in the base, unlike us who live in fear every day. The leader naturally understood this, so he didn't say anything more, but waved his hand, said goodbye to Brother Xiaopao, and then got into the car with his men. Soon, the car started, and the four of them were hanging in the car, shaking with the body of the car, and the iron chain made their hands uncomfortable. However, they didn't dare to speak, because after those people got on the car, they sat on both sides, and pointed their guns directly at them, and those guns were loaded with the safety pulled, ready to fire at any time. It seems that they are in a very high danger in the base. It can also be seen that the base is determined to take the bodies rather than let them run away. However, he still reminded, well, isn't it unsafe for you to do this? If you are not careful or too excited, there will be a misfire, and it doesn't matter if we die in vain. This is a confined space, and it is easy for bullets to rebound, and it will be bad if you are injured. The leader snorted coldly, then he can only blame himself for his bad luck. If it weren't for the base's request, we would not be willing to do this. The corners of his mouth twitched. It seems that the base is determined to win this time. Even its own people are so cruel. No wonder the leader said that he would hang bombs on them just now. That would be better than shooting. At least they would not accidentally hurt their own people. Qiuzilan on the side turned her head to look at him and asked with her eyes, where is your backhand? Take out your backhand. He didn't know how to respond to Qiuzilan. He thought he could get on the car and then cut the iron chain with a dead knife before fighting back. Who knew that now both hands were hung up, and he was afraid that he would be discovered before he took action. Moreover, with so many guns pointed at them, any slight movement would probably lead to them being shot into pieces. Chapter 294 Qiuzilan's first kiss. Qiuzilan didn't get his response, and her heart sank. However, she secretly decided in her heart that, even if they couldn't escape now, when they arrived at the base, she would let her sister escape anyway. He continued to think about countermeasures. In fact, it was not that there was no way to break the deadlock, but he didn't really want to use that method, so he wanted to see if there were any other ways. The car drove for a while, and then he saw a green dot on the scanner approaching quickly and gradually parallel to the car. The four of them were here, and the remaining one was definitely Spider-Man. At the same time, the leader's walkie-talkie rang. Captain, a zombie reaction was detected, and the speed was extremely fast. It was judged to be a speed-type zombie, and the level is estimated to be not high. Please give instructions. The leader glanced at the four of them, then picked up the walkie-talkie. It may be attracted by the movement of our car. Don't worry about it. If he dares to block the road or attack, just kill him directly. The walkie-talkie responded, received. Then there was no sound. The leader looked at the four of them again, then looked at the others. Be careful. These guys are serious criminals. Last time, a whole team was helpless in their hands and was killed. If they make any unusual movements later, don't wait for my order, just shoot. Those people answered in unison, yes. QIU Zillion looked at her sister. What is a serious criminal? QIU Zillion shook her head. Don't pay attention to what they say. QIU Zillion said oh, and didn't ask any more. He watched Little Spider go faster and faster, and gradually surpass the car, and began to doubt whether it was Little Spider. Unfortunately, Little Spider was not his assistant, and there was no way to communicate and achieve internal and external cooperation. At this moment, a loud bang suddenly came from the front of the car, and the whole car shook. Then, 2 or 3 more gunshots were heard. The leader quickly picked up the walkie-talkie. What happened? Please answer if you hear it. Although they are now protected by the car, in a sense, it is also a kind of confinement for them. Once something happens to the front of the car, they can only wait for rescue here. Because if the car door is opened, the zombies will come in, and they will surely die. Therefore, the front of the car is very important to them. The intercom quickly responded. Just now a spider zombie hit the car window glass in front of us. Fortunately, our glass is strong enough and nothing happened. Later I fired 2 shots, but I failed to hit it and let it run away. Another person continued. It didn't die, even after being hit at this speed. It's lucky. I don't believe I won't smash it into pieces if it happens again. The leader felt that something was wrong and warned, be careful and focus on the mission. The intercom responded, received. QIU Zillion heard the word spider zombie and said in surprise, Little Spider? The leader looked at QIU Zillion. What is a little spider? QIU Zillion turned her head away and didn't want to answer. QIU Zillion said quickly, it's a spider zombie that has been chasing us. Children don't know it, so they call it Little Spider. QIU Zillion looked at her sister, wondering why her sister said that. Such a lie obviously couldn't fool the leader. He stood up and walked towards QIU Zillion step by step. Little sister, is your sister right? QIU Zillion was anxious. If you have anything to say, come to me. Don't mess with my sister. The leader looked at QIU Zillion. Okay, then tell me, what is Little Spider? QIU Zillion was thinking about what to say when suddenly, the car body was hit hard and shook directly. The leader's intercom also rang. Captain, the spider zombie just attacked from the side again, but it's too fast. I can't aim. Do you want to find a way to kill it? It looks like it's at most level 2, maybe even only level 1. The leader didn't answer, but looked at QIU Zillion. Is that spider zombie in the same group as you? Is it here to save you? Otherwise, I'll open the door and you can invite it in, to rest for a while. QIU Zillion shouted directly. Don't hurt the little spider. The leader looked at QIU Zillion again. It seems that you have a good relationship with it. How about you talk to it? At this moment, the car body was hit again, but in another direction, and this time the impact was stronger, and the car shook more. The people in the car couldn't sit steadily, not to mention the few of them who were hanging, swaying from side to side. However, he took this opportunity to turn his head to the side and shouted, Zillion. QIU Zillion heard someone calling her name, turned her head subconsciously, and then found that her mouth was blocked. She was stunned, and forgot to blink. Then, she slowly closed her eyes. Wang QIU Shu and QIU Zillion on the side were also stunned. The leader finally stood still, looked at the two of them kissing, and then looked at Wang QIU Shu. It seems that your boyfriend is not very loyal to you. Or does he feel that he is about to die, so he chooses to indulge himself? No one paid attention to the leader. The leader was asking for trouble and stepped forward. You two should separate quickly, otherwise I will be rude. Hearing the warning, he shut up and looked back at the leader with a smile in his eyes and a smile on the corners of his mouth. The leader was confused and snorted. You are taking advantage of me when I'm about to die. No wonder you are smiling so happily. But it's just a kiss, no big deal. At this time, the intercom rang. Captain, it's bad. The energy of a high-level zombie has been detected, and it suddenly appeared nearby. What should we do? Please tell me. The leader's heart tightened, and he thought of his inexplicable smile just now. He couldn't help but feel that something was wrong, and subconsciously wanted to step back. At this time, Qiuzilan suddenly opened her eyes, and her red eyes, that seemed to be dripping with blood, looked at the leader, and at the same time, the aura on her body suppressed the whole scene. The car was unmanned, and it crashed into a building on the side of the road with a bang and stopped. The leader stood there, eyes full of disbelief. How could it be? How did you transform? Soon, the leader reacted. Was it when you were kissing just now? But how did you do it? Did you hide the transformation needle or injection in your stomach in advance? Qiuzilan did not answer, and directly started to transform into a crab. As her two large claws appeared, the thick iron chain could no longer hold on, and it broke with a bang. Then, her large claws clamped on the remaining iron chains, breaking them all, and everyone's restraints were untied. Chapter 295, Escape. He took out a transformation needle, and threw it to Wang Qiushu. Wang Qiushu took the transformation needle in a daze, but did not inject it immediately. He shouted, "Don't think too much, we are not out of danger yet." Wang Qiushu took a deep breath, and then started to inject. Qiuzilan then transformed back into a zombie, and took her sister into invisibility. He stepped forward, and put the death and life knife on the leader's neck. "You didn't expect it, did you?" The leader raised his hands. "I really didn't expect it." At the same time, he said to his men, "Don't shoot." The people in the car finally came back to their senses from the bumps, and were directly suppressed by the transformed Qiuzilan, so they naturally couldn't shoot. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded in the car. "I didn't expect it either. It seems that you are not only very capable, but also have many other secrets. Now, I'm more interested in you." There was an electric sound in the voice, which should be emitted by some kind of communication equipment. The other party should have been observing them all the time, and didn't speak until this time. He sneered, "Since you are interested in me, then come find me. I will always be waiting for you. However, if you send these rubbish again, forget it, there is no need. Alternatively, I can come find you. Just leave your name and address." The voice continued, "You don't think you can escape by restraining him, do you? We have plenty of such people in our base, and can get rid of them at any time." He shook his head. "Of course I can't restrain him, but now everyone is restrained by us. We can leave whenever we want. So I want to know, what else do you have in mind?" The voice laughed. "To be honest, there is a bomb installed under this car. It is the kind that is completely controlled by pressure. The condition for triggering it is that the weight exceeds the original weight of the people in the car. We have calculated the weight. If 2 more people are added to the 3 of you, it will explode. In addition, if the weight drops to the level before you got on the car, it will also explode. So, if you don't want to be blown to pieces, you can only come to the base, and we will send people up to replace you." He nodded. "This invention is truly genius. I can't help but applaud you. Please forgive me for not having my hands free right now. I want to ask, is this the bomb you made?" The voice became even more proud. "Of course it was me, and I designed it specifically for you, just to prevent you from escaping. No matter what plan you had before, as long as you get on the bus, you are destined to be able to get off in this way." He said disdainfully, "I'm so flattered by your praise. Do you really think this is a genius design? You said that you can send someone up to replace us, so I can find something else to replace us." The voice sneered, "I heard that the 4 of you have been killed. Can anyone save you? Fortunately, the extra person is a child, otherwise this bomb would be really difficult to deal with." He responded, "Have you forgotten the spider zombie just now? Forget it. I won't talk so much nonsense with you. Just wait for me to go to the base to deal with you. Now I have things to do." The voice paused, as if it had not expected the spider zombie as a variable, mainly because the previous intelligence did not include the little spider. However, the voice said, "Do you think I only have this one backup?" After that, there was a sound of snapping fingers. With the sound of pop, he saw that the needle of a syringe was rotating and rising at the position where the leader was sitting. Looking at the others, he saw that their bodies shook together, and then their eyes began to turn red. He shook his head. "Unless they are all level 4 zombies, what's the use?" The voice sneered, "Shoot." The moment the voice spoke, Wang Qiushu had already rushed to the back of the car with him, and he also turned on the invisible. The 2 sisters Qiuzilan had been hiding there early in the morning. When those people transformed, they broke free from Qiuzulan's breath suppression for a moment, so they pulled the trigger directly. However, those people were only aiming at the place where the original 4 people were. Now only one leader was standing there. In fact, the 4 people had come behind them. The leader only had time to shout no before he was shot into a sieve. Various shrapnel flew around in the car, injuring many people by mistake. However, the 4 of them were wearing protective gear, which could block some of the bullets from the guns, not to mention the stray shrapnel after the rebound. So, the 4 of them were fine. Afterwards, the people were suppressed again and stopped shooting. The voice could obviously see all the movements in the carriage, and said in surprise, "I didn't expect you could be invisible, and more than one person has this ability at the same time. I'm more interested in you." He was too lazy to answer, and picked up the death and life knife to scratch the carriage. Now the only way to open the carriage and get out is to use this. Seeing that there was no answer, the voice stopped talking. The 4 of them had been invisible in the carriage until he scratched a big hole in the carriage, and the little spider suddenly poked his head in. Qiuzulan shouted directly, "Little spider." The little spider was stunned for a moment, then looked at the position where Qiuzulan was, but could not see anyone. He said to the little spider, "Little spider, go and catch a few zombies now." Hearing this, the little spider nodded, and after a while, it came back with a big belly and dragged a few zombie skins. He was almost mad to death. "How did you upgrade? You have no brains. I want a corpse, not skin." The little spider nodded, not quite understanding, and then left again. When it came back again, it finally brought a complete corpse. However, since the weight of the zombies was relatively light, it took several corpses to equal the weight of one of them. After replacing Qiuzulan, the efficiency was much faster, and soon they all got off the car. Wang Qiuzhu looked at the car. "Do you think that guy is trying to scare us? In fact, there is no bomb at all. Besides, the way this bomb is triggered is too weird. It feels impossible for it to exist." He thought about it, and suddenly laughed. "Why don't we try it, and then we'll know?" Wang Qiuzhu looked at him. "How do we try?" He looked at the house next to them. "Didn't he say there is a weight limit? In that case, can't we just throw things into the car?" Wang Qiuzhu nodded. "By the way, don't they want those guns and other things anymore?" He thought about it. "No, we don't need them, and it's not easy to take them back." Not long after, the car suddenly exploded with a bang, blowing the nearby houses into pieces. Chapter 296 Weird Atmosphere. After finishing the things here, they decided to go back to settle accounts with Brother Xiaopao. Because it has stopped raining now, there is no need to worry about not being able to deal with the masked man. Walking on the road, Qiuzulan hugged the little spider that had grown bigger with a smile on her face, as if she had forgotten all the unhappy things just now. Wang Qiushu and Qiuzulan both had blank expressions, and no one knew what they were thinking. He thought about it and decided to break the weird atmosphere, so he said, "I didn't expect that guy to actually make such a weird bomb. Fortunately, we were far away just now, otherwise we would have been affected." No one paid attention to him. He swallowed hard and said, "By the way, what should we do next? Should we kill directly, or sneak in and assassinate Brother Xiaopao and the masked man?" Still no one paid attention to him, and the only response to him was the da-da-da footsteps. He thought for a moment and said, "Actually, just now I." At this time, Wang Qiushu and Qiuzulan said in unison, "Shut up." He suddenly felt so tired. He was not even given a chance to explain, and he angered 2 women at the same time. He didn't know what to do now. If he had known earlier, he might as well be caught as material, which is better than being in a dilemma now. He was really in a dilemma, because Wang Qiushu and Qiuzulan were walking on both sides of him. If it was in the past, this kind of standing position was very normal. But today, he always felt that something was wrong, and there was an indescribable discomfort, as if there were knives stabbing him from both sides. He even thought that maybe this was a stab in the ribs. After walking for a while, he really couldn't stand it anymore, so he simply stood up and walked to the other side of Qiuzulan. Wang Qiushu and the others looked at him and continued to walk forward silently, as if nothing had happened. He looked at Spider-Man. "So, how did you catch up?" Do you have a dog's nose, so you can follow the smell? Zillion glared at him. Spider-Man is a spider, not a dog. Spider-Man nodded, seeming to agree with this. He touched Spider-Man's fur. Look, dog's fur is very soft, and so is Spider-Man. Dogs will chase their owners, and so will Spider-Man. Dogs are very loyal to their owners, and so is Spider-Man. So, Spider-Man is a dog. Zillion looked at him, then at Spider-Man, and was confused. Finally, she said, could Spider-Man really be a dog? Spider-Man looked at Zillion. His small eyes were full of temptation, and he obviously doubted his own race. Zillion sighed and picked up her sister. Don't listen to his nonsense. Zillion nodded and looked at him. Bad guy. Spider-Man also nodded. He had no one else to say, so he had to remain silent. As they walked, he said, there are 4 of us and 1 spider. Do we look like the 4-member pilgrimage team? Zillion's eyes widened. Little Spider is the white dragon horse. Little Spider's eyes widened as well. Zillion patted her sister's head. What a mess. Zillion stuck out her tongue mischievously, but said nothing more. Fortunately, the car did not drive far, so they quickly returned to the vicinity of Brother Peo. The scanner showed that those people were coming in and out. They probably got the news from the explosion just now, and are preparing to evacuate now. Or, they were setting traps, and waiting for them to step into them. He looked at Zillion. Do you want to find a safe place for Zillion? The scene in a while is not suitable for children to watch. Zillion hesitated. He added, with little Spider accompanying you, nothing should happen. Zillion grabbed the corner of her sister's clothes and said, I want to stay with my sister. Zillion asked, but, my sister is going to kill people. Many people will die soon, and there will be a lot of blood. Are you sure? Zillion was stunned for a moment, then asked, is it the same as in the car just now? Zillion nodded, and said, it's even more terrifying than in the car. Zillion thought about it and insisted, I still want to go. Zillion looked at him. Did you hear me? Let's go. He asked, are you sure there's no problem? That's not a movie, it's a real scene, and it will have a great impact on her psychology. Zillion sighed. This is the end of the world. It's either killing people or killing zombies. Besides, we can't find a place to throw her there every time. Whether it's safe or not is another matter. One day, she will see the scene of killing like just now, and she can't avoid it. Since she thinks there's no problem, let's take her with us. He thought for a while. Okay then, at most we can be decisive when we do it later, and take the cruel ones to the room, and try not to let her see it. On the other side, Brother Peo was on the phone. Brother, I did an okay job this time, right? You always said I was no good before, but now I have done something. At least I didn't embarrass you. The reward this time is quite generous, with a lot of transformation needles. By the way, do you want them? Or should I send some to you? No, okay. I will be able to upgrade soon, and I will come to you then, and we two brothers will join forces. There is no other way. I don't know who has killed all the zombies here, and it is not easy to upgrade. Okay, that's it for now. My men have something to report. After hanging up the phone, Brother Peo looked at the other side and said unhappily, didn't you see I was on the phone with my brother? What's the matter? The man hurriedly said, Brother Peo, something big happened. Didn't the car from the base just leave not long ago? Just now, it seemed that there was an explosion from the direction they left. I wonder if something happened to them. Brother Peo said nonchalantly, if something happens, it happens. The reward has been obtained. It has nothing to do with us. The man hesitated and reminded, what if those guys come back to trouble us? Brother Peo slapped the armrest of the chair and smiled. Isn't that better? Since they can escape, it means they are more capable and their price will naturally be higher. We can get more rewards when we catch them. If they can escape every time and then come back for revenge and fall into our hands, then I really have to thank them. The man thought about it and said, but didn't the masked man leave at midnight yesterday? We may not be able to defeat him, right? Brother Peo slapped him. Is there something wrong with your brain? Without the masked man, we can't do it. With so many traps here and the weapons in the hands of the brothers, I guarantee that they will never come back. The man said timidly, yes, yes, yes. Brother Xiaopeo was a little annoyed and waved his hand. Forget it, let the brothers prepare. The man hurried out. Chapter 297 Sneaking in. The four of them were on a rooftop in the distance, looking down. From here they could barely see what was happening on Brother Xiaopeo's side. Those people were moving all kinds of things that looked like weapons. Others were setting up all kinds of traps on both sides of the road, looking very busy. Qiu snorted coldly. It seems that they think that our strength is just like that, so they are ready to fight us head on. Wang Qiu continued. It's not their fault. We were defeated too quickly last night, but it's not raining now. I want to see if the masked man is still that powerful. He thought about it and said, well, the masked man doesn't seem to be here. Qiu looked at him. Then where did he go? And is Brother Xiaopeo here? These two are her enemies. If they are not here, who can she seek revenge on? He responded, Brother Xiaopeo is still here, but that level 3 is too conspicuous. As for the masked man, he was gone when I used the scan this morning. I don't know if he ran away or went out for something. Qiu gritted her teeth. Whether he ran away or went out, he shouldn't be able to get far. Let's do it now. Kill Brother Xiaopeo and the others, and then interrogate the whereabouts of the masked man. He nodded. Then let's do it the same as before. You and I will go in stealthily and lead people in separately. Now I'm the only one with a knife, so let's go get your weapons back first. As for Spider-Man, you can do whatever you want. There are guns in there, so if you don't want to die, be careful. Spider-Man nodded, not knowing if he understood or not. After thinking for a while, he added, you are not allowed to eat anything in there, whether it's people or zombies. Spider-Man nodded again. He clenched his fists and flashed them in front of Spider-Man. Otherwise, I'll let you taste this. Spider-Man nodded frantically. Wang Qiu at the side asked, none of them are good people, just eat them. Besides, it's a zombie, so it seems normal to eat people. He shook his head. I can't get over it. And what if it gets used to eating people and changes to eating people in the future? At that time, should I kill it or not? Qiu looked at the little spider with horror and said quickly, you must not eat people, otherwise I don't want you anymore. The little spider nodded repeatedly, as if he understood the seriousness of the matter. He took out the transformation needle and looked at Wang Qiu. Then let's go. Qiu also took Qiu to become invisible. Before leaving, Zillion shouted to the little spider, remember to be careful. The little spider looked at Qiu who disappeared in the air. After a while, he climbed down from the outer wall of the house and disappeared in a while. Since he had noticed it with the scanner before, he could directly avoid those places where there might be traps in the first part of the road and just follow the way he took yesterday. As for the latter part, since there are many people coming and going on the road, you only need to follow their footsteps and you will definitely not trigger the trap. At the same time when Wang Qiu and the others transformed, a subordinate rushed into the lobby with the detection instrument and said to Brother Xiaopeo, boss, we detected the energy of high-level zombies for a moment just now. Those people should have come back. However, the energy has disappeared now. I guess they may have become invisible. Brother Xiaopeo sneered, these people really don't take me seriously. They actually dared to come back to find me. Where's Liu Gao? Let Liu Gao smell and see if he can find their location. Once found, just shoot randomly. Remember to shoot his legs, don't kill him. A cold sweat broke out on the man's forehead. Boss, Liu Gao is dead. Brother Xiaopeo frowned. When did he die? The man replied, last night. Liu Gao was sent as a pioneer to determine their specific location. Then, none of them came back. Brother Xiaopeo felt inexplicably irritated. Then is there anyone else who has the same ability as Liu Gao, or someone similar who can sense the enemy's position? The man thought about it and shook his head. The remaining brothers are not compatible with the dog zombie virus. As for the ability to sense the enemy's position, no brother has it. Brother Xiaopeo suddenly felt very tired. The masked man had easily captured those people yesterday. How come when it came to him, he couldn't even determine the other party's position? However, it was impossible for him to admit that he was not as good as the masked man. On the contrary, he would lose his prestige in the hearts of his subordinates. After thinking for a while, he asked, "Are the equipments of the brothers ready?" The man said quickly, "They are all ready. I will ask them to prepare them as soon as you tell them. The bulletproof vests have been put on and the guns have been loaded. As long as the other party dares to show their heads, they will definitely be in trouble." Brother Xiaopao nodded slightly and then said, "Let them all come over and form a circle around me to protect me." The man was stunned for a moment, nodded and said yes, and prepared to go out. Brother Xiaopao thought for a while and then said, "Take out all the transformation needles in the warehouse, give one to each person, and bring the rest to me. If there is anything wrong later, let them inject it directly." The man hurriedly did as he was told, but there was also a trace of solemnity in his eyes. It seems that this time, Brother Xiaopao himself is not sure. In his heart, he even considered whether to run away, but after thinking about the consequences of running away, he had to sigh and give up the idea. After a while, those people stood in front of Brother Xiaopao with guns. They surrounded Brother Xiaopao in circles. In other words, if you want to kill Brother Xiaopao, you must break through the heavy encirclement. Brother Xiaopao held the soul-breaking sword in his left hand and a gun in his right hand, but he still didn't feel safe. After thinking about it, he put the row of transformation needles in a convenient position so that he could inject them at the first time. Next, it was a long waiting time. At the beginning, those people were still vigilant, but as time passed, they began to doubt whether the other party was really here for revenge. If it was true, why haven't they taken action yet? Brother Xiaopao looked at those people and became a little impatient, so he asked directly, "How long has it been now?" The previous man looked at his watch and replied, "Boss, it has been 10 minutes since we detected the high-level zombies." Brother Xiaopao asked again, "How long did it take them to finish transforming last night?" The man thought for a while and said, "If you count the time before they were caught, it was probably about 10 minutes. This time has exceeded our limit. I don't know how they did it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298, The Most Terrifying Thing. Brother Xiaopao tapped his fingers on the handrail, glancing at the transformation needle next to him from time to time, and then said, "That means they will soon finish their transformation. Pass the order and let everyone pay attention. Report immediately if they find their whereabouts. Even if they continue to inject the transformation needle, they won't last long. Maybe they will soon become real zombies, and at that time they may be more valuable than their human bodies. Anyway, we have plenty of time, so the worst that can happen is that we can slowly waste time with them." The man responded and hurried out. Those who can guard here are some of Brother Xiaopao's confidants, and only these people can get the right to use a transformation needle. However, there are many other guards here, as well as some staff responsible for logistics. Not long after, the man hurried back again, his face pale, sweating profusely and not bothering to wipe it off. "Boss, something happened in the warehouse." Brother Xiaopao's face changed. The warehouse is of utmost importance, especially the food inside. If there is no food, these people under him will not only rebel, but will immediately quit their jobs and protect him. The reason he could make these people work for him, wasn't it because he had food and could feed them? The others looked at each other and were a little agitated, but they still restrained themselves. After all, the situation was unclear, and behind them was Brother Cannon. They might not be able to walk out alive from Brother Cannon's bullets. The man took a breath and seemed to realize that he had said the wrong thing and waved his hands repeatedly. "Don't worry, the food is fine." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and felt a lot more at ease. Xiaopao was also a little annoyed and asked, "What happened? Tell me clearly at once. Don't talk in pieces." The man looked at Xiaopao carefully and continued, "Strictly speaking, everything in the warehouse is fine, except for the sledgehammer and the rifle that were taken back last night. So, it should be those people who came back." Xiaopao slammed the table and said, "Come if you want. I'm not afraid of them." What about those good-for-nothings guarding the warehouse? Catch them and send them to the base as materials next time. If they can't even do such a small thing, what's the use of them? When the others heard this, their eyes were a little complicated, but they were just grieving for the death of the rabbit, not out of sympathy and pity for those people. The man was stunned for a moment and responded, well, they are all dead, and they were killed in an instant. Some were beheaded, and some had their necks twisted. The most important thing is that they didn't send any signals until they died, and they didn't even fire a single shot. The others couldn't help but swallow their saliva. To be able to do this in broad daylight, it was enough to show the strength of the opponent. Brother Xiaopao naturally understood that now was not the time to shake the morale of the army. He slammed the table and frightened the person in charge of reporting. Then, he said, it must be those lazy guys who gave the other party an opportunity. We have dozens of people and dozens of guns now. Do we need to be afraid of them? The man responded repeatedly, yes, the boss is right. However, he lowered his head when he said this, so no one knew what he was thinking. At this time, the four of them were standing outside the door, looking at the group of people inside, but did not take action. When Qiu Zilan saw Brother Xiaopao, she was ready to rush out. Anyway, the strength of the opponents was not very good, and her level 3 aura was enough to suppress these people. At that time, those people could only let her slaughter them. However, he stopped Qiu Zilan. Don't be anxious, it's meaningless to bully the weak. Besides, if he just died like this, wouldn't it be a bargain for him? Qiu Zilan looked at him. Then what do you say we should do? He smiled. Do you know what death row prisoners are most afraid of? Qiu Zilan's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt and shook her head. He explained, what they fear most is not being sentenced to death, but the time between being sentenced and being executed. They already know when they will die, but they have no way to die, so they can only wait to die. During this period, every minute and every second is a torment for them. In fact, when the execution is finally carried out, they will be glad that they can finally be free. Qiu Zilan thought for a while. So, what do you mean? He nodded. As the art of war says, attacking the heart is the best. Today, we will let Brother Xiaopao watch his men die one by one in front of him, and he can't even see our shadows. The fear of waiting for death is the most terrifying. Qiu Zilan asked, what are the specific operations? He handed the death knife to Wang Qiu. You will know in a moment. The next second, among those who were holding guns and looking around vigilantly, one of the guns suddenly broke into 2 pieces, and the cut was extremely smooth. With a pop, the broken gun body fell to the ground, startling everyone. The man holding the gun was even more frightened. He quickly touched his neck and breathed a sigh of relief when he found that he was fine. Then, he quickly took out his knife and looked around vigilantly. If the enemy had attacked him just now, he would have been dead. The others also quietly took a step back, leaning their upper bodies back slightly, so that at least, when the enemy attacked, they would have more chances to dodge. Brother Xiaopao picked up the soul-breaking sword and looked at the man again. How much time has passed now? The man looked at the time. It's been 20 minutes. Then, he whispered in Brother Xiaopao's ear, boss, it seems that the other party is determined to fight with us. There are only 4 of them, and at most they have high-level materials. It's not cost-effective for so many of us to fight with them. Even if we can kill them in the end, it's not worth it. Besides, looking at the current situation, people's hearts are unsteady. If 2 more guns are cut off, these people will probably be scared away. Then you, boss, will be in danger. Brother Xiaopao was a little annoyed, but he also understood that what the other party said made sense, so he asked, then tell me what we can do. People have come to our door, can we still run away? In that case, where should I put my face? Besides, even if we run, where can we run to? The man responded, boss is really smart. He guessed what I was going to say at once. That's right, we are going to run. Brother Xiaopao glanced at the man. Stop flattering me and tell me in detail. The man said quickly, yes, actually, it's like this. Boss, doesn't your eldest brother have some influence in the base? So, we can run to the base. As the saying goes, a green mountain is there. There is no need to worry about firewood. On the other hand, we can also notify the base. If those 4 people are ignorant of life and death and dare to follow us, then let the base deal with them, so we don't have to do it. In this way, we can not only solve the problem of their lives, but also get some benefits, or at least do the base a favor. Brother Xiaopao nodded with satisfaction. Just do as you say. Chapter 299 Excitement. The man responded and hurried out again. Qiu Zilan took a look and asked, what did that man do again? He stared at the scan for a while and replied, many people are going in and out of the warehouse. It seems that they are preparing to run away. Qiu Zilan was immediately anxious. Should we stop them? He shook his head. No hurry. The boss is still here. How dare the subordinates run away? Besides, wouldn't it be better if someone helped us load the things into the car? Otherwise, we will have to do it later. Qiu Zilan thought about it and realized that this was indeed the truth, so he didn't say anything else. He then looked at Wang Qiushu again. Wang Qiushu understood, stretched out his arm into the room, and then selected one of the targets. The knife of death and life passed, and another gun was cut into 2 pieces. And Wang Qiushu's hand was immediately retracted. Those people were in a panic again. Their eyes swept around, trying to find some clues, but in fact everything was in vain. Xiaopao became more irritated. This feeling of knowing that the opponent was right next to him, but not being able to see him was really uncomfortable. If he hadn't considered that firing randomly in the house might cause stray bullets, he would have wanted his men to open fire. Fortunately, at this time, the man ran back again. Seeing the panicked people, he naturally guessed what was going on. However, he didn't ask much, just said, boss, I have sent people, but they can't move everything in a short time. It will take some time. Brother Xiaopao waved his hand. Got it, let them hurry up. The man nodded and said, actually, this is not a bad thing. It takes time for us to move things. Since they want to waste time with us, let's continue to waste time. Maybe, by the time we finish moving things, their bodies will be exposed, because they can't hold on. Brother Xiaopao thought for a while and exhaled. Well, by the way, let them be careful. Maybe those 4 people will turn around to deal with them. The man responded and hurried out. Next, Wang Qiushu kept chopping off the guns in the hands of those people, and the ground was soon covered with the remains of guns. Those people were still alert at the beginning, but later on, they gradually became numb. Some of them who were still holding guns in their hands were even praying that it would be their turn next. After all, the other party's purpose seemed to be just to chop the guns. If they kept holding the guns in their hands, it was hard to say whether they would chop people as well. Unfortunately, Brother Xiaopao was staring at them from behind, so those people couldn't just throw away their guns, and could only hold on. Brother Xiaopao looked at the pile of broken guns on the ground, and couldn't bear to look at them anymore. These were the guys who made a living. He had finally exchanged them back, but they turned into scrap metal. At the same time, his hatred for the 4 people became deeper. He really had to skin them alive to relieve his hatred. However, Brother Xiaopao looked at the empty house, and a sense of powerlessness surged in his heart. He didn't even know where the opponent was, so how could he skin them alive? The 4 people outside the door didn't care. It took them a long time to transform, so they could just take physical strength medicine when the transformation time was up. This is exactly what Xiaopao and his men didn't know. They thought that they were just like the masked man, completely overdrawing their bodies to inject the transformation needle. During this time, all the guns of those people were chopped off, and they had to replace them with knives. Only Xiaopao, the innermost one, still held a complete gun in his hand, which was also the only gun in the house. It's not that Wang Qiushu couldn't chop it off, it just took some effort at most. It was mainly to give Xiaopao a little hope. The greater the hope now, the deeper the despair later. If Xiaopao's gun was chopped off now, I'm afraid it would alert the enemy, and that would be meaningless. At this time, the man hurriedly walked in. Boss, it's done, we can leave. Xiaopao stood up and waved his hand. Protect me out, prepare to retreat. The others prepared to act, and at the same time they breathed a sigh of relief, finally being able to leave this damn room. In this room, every extra second is torture. Suddenly, the man grabbed his neck fiercely. If I had known that I would die if I came back, I would not have come back. Xiaopaoje was stunned for a moment and said angrily, "What do you mean? You wanted to run away with my things just now? You want to betray me?" The man looked at Xiaopaoje, smiled, and then a bloodline appeared on his neck. Xiaopaoje quickly took a step back, his eyes full of fear. Wow, the man's head was sprayed into the sky by the surging blood, and the blood gushed out like a fountain, scattering on the people around. Those people felt the warm blood beads falling on their bodies, but they didn't dare to move, for fear that they would become the next target if they moved. Yuuzhan had seen Wan Qiushu's move long ago, so she covered her sister's eyes first, and looked at him at the same time. "Didn't you just say that the cruel things should be dragged into the room before doing them?" The corner of his mouth twitched. "Killing is like this, chopping off the head with one knife. This is indeed a bit cruel, but only in this way can the deterrent effect be strong enough. Look, they all look like they are about to be scared to death." Brother Xiaopao was a little confused. For a while, he was shocked by the betrayal of his subordinates and the sudden death of his subordinates in front of him. He didn't know what to do. He had killed many people, but he had never seen such a scene. The scene replayed in front of his eyes again and again, irritating his nerves. After such a long period of torture, those people looked at the gun that was chopped into 2 pieces on the ground, and then looked at the beheaded body, and seemed to have seen their own future. Finally, someone yelled, threw away the knife in his hand, and rushed out like crazy. "I don't want to play anymore." The rest of the people looked at Brother Xiaopao, then at the door, and they were also a little tempted. At the same time, he regretted why he didn't rush out at the first moment. Now that Xiaopaoje had reacted, it might not be so easy to escape. However, just as the man rushed to the door, his head and body were suddenly separated. The head was still rushing forward due to inertia, but the body was kicked back and fell to the ground. Those people were stunned for a moment and took a breath of cold air. This death was too terrible. They didn't even see where the opponent was, and they were suddenly beheaded. Xiaopaoje's blood boiled, and he suddenly pushed away the people in front of him, took a step forward, and fired at the vicinity of the door with his gun. The bullets fired da-da-da, hitting the wall, and splashing the wall paint all over the ground. When the gunshots stopped, the door frame had been broken, but there was no sign of anyone or zombie being shot. Chapter 300 Internal Strife. Several people were hiding a little far from the door at this time. Wan Qiushu breathed a sigh of relief. "Fortunately we retreated quickly, otherwise it would have become a hornet's nest." "But how did you know he was going to shoot?" He glanced in the direction of the door. "We cut off all the guns, leaving only his. And the man was killed by us at the door just now. He must have thought we were hiding near the door." Yuuzhan nodded. "What about now?" He smiled. "Wait." Wan Qiushu asked curiously. "Wait for what?" He shook his head and did not answer. Brother Xiaopao operated it all in vain. The others looked back at Brother Xiaopao. Although they did not say it clearly, the meaning in their eyes was self-evident. Brother Xiaopao pointed his gun at everyone. "Now you form a human wall. No gaps are allowed. Protect me to get out. As long as I can get to the base alive, you will definitely benefit." Those people looked at each other and silently did what Brother Xiaopao said. They wanted to escape, but Brother Xiaopao's gun had not been used up yet, so they did not dare to move. He looked at the movements of the people on the scanner and said to Wan Qiushu, "If someone comes out of the door later, you will suppress them with your aura. Suppress whoever comes out. Don't worry about the people in the room." Wan Qiushu nodded. After a while, 2 people really stepped out of the door, so her aura suppressed them directly. Xiaopaoje followed closely behind. When he saw that the 2 people suddenly stopped, he couldn't help but ask, "Why don't you leave?" The level of the 2 people was quite different from Wan Qiushu. Not to mention turning around, they couldn't even open their mouths to speak. Xiaopaoje was a little annoyed and thought that the 2 people wanted to kill him on purpose. After pushing the 2 people and finding no response, he raised his gun and swept over. The 2 fell to the ground with their eyes wide open. Then, Xiaopaoje pointed at the people next to him and said, "You guys take over, don't leave any gaps." The 2 people next to him looked at the body lying on the ground, stepped in front of Xiaopaoje with 2 shaking legs, but did not walk out of the door. At this time, a person who was closer to the window looked back at Brother Xiaopeo, and after finding that Brother Xiaopeo was not paying attention to that side, he jumped out of the window directly and then ran desperately. Qiyu Zilan thought that Wan Qiyu had not reacted and was about to crush him with her breath, but was stopped by him. The man walked farther and farther and was glad that he was not beheaded when he suddenly heard a burst of gunfire behind him. When he turned around, he saw a black hole in the muzzle of a gun and a bullet shooting at him. Then, Brother Xiaopeo's voice came from the room. Who else wants to run? Is it you? Is it you? Or you? No one answered. Brother Xiaopeo continued, if I die here today, you will all be buried with me, and none of you can escape. If you don't want to die, then find a way to escort me away. The rest of the people looked at each other, and finally someone stood up and whispered, Brother Xiaopeo, we can transform. After the transformation, everyone's ability will be much higher than it is now, and then we can rush out with higher physical fitness. How can the current human body fight against those zombies? Moreover, the other party is reluctant to take action, which clearly means they want to play tricks on us. The person who spoke did not dare to get too close to Brother Xiaopeo, lest Brother Xiaopeo mistakenly think that he was going to assassinate him. Brother Xiaopeo thought about it and nodded, then transform. When those people heard this, they took out the transformation needle and pierced themselves, and began to transform. But Brother Xiaopeo didn't know what he was thinking, and he didn't transform. After the transformation was completed, the man asked, Brother Xiaopeo, won't you change? Brother Xiaopeo shook his head, you guys are enough, I won't change. The man nodded, turned around, winked at both sides, and then stepped forward, then I'll lead the way. Brother Xiaopeo hurried to catch up, and suddenly two zombies on each side rushed towards Brother Xiaopeo, shouting at the same time, brothers, come on, if we don't kill him today, we will all die here. Those 4 people are also back to seek revenge on him and have nothing to do with us. We don't need to be buried with him. The rest of the people didn't expect this to happen, and many of them were a little tempted, but seeing the gun in Brother Xiaopeo's hand, they held back and decided to wait and see what happened first. Bang 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 bang, 4 consecutive gunshots, and then 4 bodies fell to the ground at the same time, all shot right in the middle of the eyebrows. Brother Xiaopeo then looked up. I said I wouldn't transform, and you really believed me? The man from before quickly turned around. Boss is awesome, you've caught a few traitors. People like them don't deserve to die. Brother Xiaopeo pointed the gun directly at the man's head. It was you who proposed the transformation just now, right? And they all gave the instructions, right? The man raised his hands and hurriedly said, Boss, it's unfair. I've always been loyal to you. I didn't expect that they would use the transformation to attack you. If I had known, I would have killed them first. Besides, if I didn't transform, I really can't think of a way to escape. Brother Xiaopeo sneered, even if everything you said is true, I can't take the risk, so you still have to die. After saying that, he was about to pull the trigger. At this time, the man's fingernails suddenly grew longer, and he took the lead in scratching the gun, and actually cut the gun into 2 pieces. You never thought that I had already quietly upgraded to level 2. I wanted to continue to hide my incompetence, but now there is no way. Xiaopeo just sneered, and threw away the broken gun in his hand. Level 2, what's the big deal? The man replied, aren't you only level 2? I can at least fight you to a draw, but don't forget, there are so many people here. Do you think they will help you or help me? Seeing that Xiaopeo's gun was cut off, the others immediately had their own thoughts. However, most people still didn't want to help anyone. They wanted to leave this damn house more. However, thinking about the 4 people who didn't know where they were hiding, maybe they would be hacked to death as soon as they went out, so they had to stay. Maybe if everyone rushed out together, the chance of survival would be greater. The man looked around at the others and naturally knew their little thoughts, so he rushed directly towards Xiaopeo. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. As long as he wins, these people will have to listen to him and regard him as the new boss. Moreover, everything is caused by Brother Xiaopeo. If Brother Xiaopeo dies, it may be able to calm the anger of the 4 people. If not, at most they can compensate them. Therefore, for himself and for everyone, Brother Ziopeo must die today. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.